Good evening, Somers, and welcome to the Somers Town Board work session and regular meeting combined for Thursday, September 6, 2018. If you would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and be seated. Patty, roll call?
Councilman William G. Faulkner.
Here.
Councilman Richard G. Clinch.
Here.
Councilman Anthony J. Sirico.
Here.
Councilman Thomas A. Garrity Jr. Supervisor Rick Morrissey.
Present. Thank you. Okay, our first order of business tonight is the beginning of several public hearings. So the first one is on our proposed law to amend Chapter 170 entitled Zoning, adding Article 23 entitled Vape Shops. Publishing and posting?
That was published in the Somers Record and posted on the Town Clerk's Bulletin Board on August 23rd.
Okay, make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, so just a little rehash here. It's been brought to this board's attention and via the schools and concerned residents that vaping has become an issue with the young kids in the town of Somers. These products are legal. They are sold in some of our establishments. However, younger kids are getting a hold of it and augmenting the type of liquid that goes into them. And we've been told that at the school, this is an issue. So the board felt that we should take some action to limit and create barriers for young people to get access to e-cigarettes and vaping products. So very recently, the Westchester County passed a law raising the age that you can purchase cigarettes and tobacco products, including e-cigarettes, which are the instrument used to vape, to 21 years of age. So, and that is enforced by state police, the health department. They do tobacco stings, and they will include these products now in their stings. So that kind of takes the pressure off the town of Somers to have to prevent the sales of this product. But what we felt was that we should and could promote that there are no vape shops established in the town of Somers. We would like to move to prohibit vape shops. Since there are none, we want it to be known that the town of Somers is not welcoming to this type of business that would cater to a younger crowd of our residents and get them involved in this activity of vaping. So with that said, I'll open public hearing up to any comment. Is anyone here for public comment on prohibiting vape shops? Okay, seeing and hearing anyone, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. I will make a motion to adopt the,
A neg deck first.
make a motion to adopt the environmental assessment form and negative declaration.
Yep. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And then I'll make a motion to adopt the law to amend Chapter 170 entitled Zoning, adding Article 23 entitled Vape Shops of the Code of the Town of Somers.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And thank you.
I would just add, when you said that it's a problem in Somers, it's a problem obviously everywhere.
Everywhere.
And whatever we can do to limit that is good. And the high school already has had some issues, I know, with that the first day. And if we can help, even if it's just somewhat symbolic and just make it harder, I'm all for that, so thank you.
So this doesn't prohibit the sale of that equipment or the jewels or so by maybe a vendor. It could be like a convenience store of some nature. What this focuses on, sort of a vape shop that might specialize in this and maybe have a vape parlor, so to speak, where you might hang out and, smoke or vape. And so this is, I think is a reasonable thing to do. With that in combination with the 21-year-old limit that the county is putting in force, I think accomplishes as much as we really can at a local level. This really gets to be about education and family monitoring this. You can acquire this equipment online. I honestly, I see it in my family, cousins, nieces and nephews. They're in college, and this is just very prevalent. So the medical information on this is all new. I mean, there's no real history on it, and so there's a lot of debate as to whether it's better than this or worse than that. However, I think it's a substance that has addictive qualities, and there's substances that have addictive qualities, and I think we have to be mindful of that. So everyone should be aware of it, and just watch your children.
Well, what I find despicable is the company that makes these products, several companies do, clearly are marketing them to kids with candy cane flavors and what is it, the watermelon or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're not aiming those at adults who are trying to quit smoking, where there might be a legitimate purpose for this. So I think the companies that are doing that are clearly marketing it where they can make some money. And the research that I have seen is that if you start that young, even if you don't smoke, but you start, it's fashionable, it looks cool, it's very easy to hide right in your sleeve, because kids will do that, that you're more likely than at some point to take up smoking, let alone, as the supervisor said, things like fentanyl or the active ingredient in marijuana, THC, can be injected into it, and you're smoking that right at the same time. So I think it's the issue is about with kids, not the issue of adults who are trying to not smoke. Everyone, I think, would support that.
Well, we have, and we passed the law, so we're going to prohibit
Good.
vape shops.
Good.
Okay, our next public hearing this evening is a proposed local law to amend Chapter 170 entitled Zoning, amending Article 1 entitled General Provisions and Article 4 entitled Business Historic Preservation District of the Town of Somers. And basically, this has to do with temporary signage. Patty, publishing and posting?
That was published in the Somers Record and posted on the Town Clerk's Bulletin Board on August 23rd.
Thank you. So, it's almost ironic that in one of our most regulated districts, which is the Business Historic District, temporary signage is still permitted, where everywhere else in the town of Somers, temporary signs are not permitted. So the board felt that there should be a level playing field, and especially in the historic district. So that's why we decided to bring the issue up and hold a public hearing. So I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And is there anyone here for public comment on this issue?
Good evening. Ami Renani. So, as I was paying my huge tax bill today, I was thinking and hoping that I was here a few weeks ago, and I'm hoping that we can compromise and maybe have a small sign. Again, we're talking about, I'm not looking to have a picture and a huge sign. So I own some buildings down the street here, west of here. One of the buildings has 2 out of 6 suites are filled. So for a few months, I haven't had the sign there, and it's been empty. We put it on multiple listing, and it's just not as effective as having a sign. So what I'm hoping is that you allow like a small, like black and white sign, a small sign, suites available. What I said last time was that I think that for the local community, people don't go on multiple listing looking for property. I think it's a good thing that if someone drives by and sees a sign that there's space available, that maybe they'll want to buy or rent or something, as opposed to the business people that have the money that are able to afford to go on multiple listing and make investments. So I don't see how that's going to detract if you have like a small sign. If you guys want to have us go before the Architectural Review Board to make sure that the sign is not going to detract, it's fine. But I think if you guys just say if it's black on white with a small sign, I don't think it's going to detract from the community and be a bad thing to do.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm hoping is that.
Are you referring to a sign that's like in the window, suites available, or are you talking about a sign that's on the street?
Sign on the street? I don't know what the codes are for the window, but for me, it's not that visible on the window. But if I could do a window, I'll do a window. But like on the street, like if it's a little lawn sign, make it a small sign. But if someone drives by, that they could see something is available.
So similar to a residential for sale sign.
Yeah, but again, if you in the historic district, if you think it should be smaller, it's fine. But just some signage. Because it's been a while that I've had on multiple listing and nobody has called, it doesn't work well.
So just to clarify, this is a sign that would be in our right-of-way if it was not in the right-of-way, the 15-foot back.
Well, it's got to be set back
So if it was set,
onto your property. It can't be in the public right of way.
so if
I'm not
it's,
suggesting that, right?
No, I'm not. The setback is fine. Whatever you guys think
so
setback
if
is
he
fine.
was to set back today, if he was to set it back, would that be in violation of what was being
Well, it
proposed?
would be classified, unless you clarify it, as a temporary sign. And I think that's what this public hearing is about,
Mhm.
to prohibit them.
Okay.
So you either have to carve out this type of sign from other signs, and perhaps it would be good to have a uniform standard of how large it can be and what colors it can be, and have maybe the ARB can do that for you. That's, other towns do have the ARB rule on their signs.
Would the question of a sign in the window, so you're going down the street, you go, hey, maybe I'd like to get an office here, and you see a sign in the window, is that part of the law as it's written now? Would that be prohibited? Or that would not be prohibited under this
I think he's saying,
I don't think
proposition
there's any
from us?
distinction made between signage in a window and signage
On the street.
on a street.
I mean, I can understand that if I own the building, putting a sign in the window, I got a
Yeah,
room.
But
you want
some
that.
windows are.
Yes,
closer to
that
the road
becomes
than
an issue,
others,
of course.
so-
sure.
Some are bigger,
Sure,
some are
I
smaller.
certainly understand that. I'm not saying that's the answer. I'm just saying I could support that. I think the question is it good for Somers to have a different code in this part of Somers than other part of Somers, I suppose, is really the issue in front of us. Is it good for Somers to allow those signs? Does it help Somers in general? Obviously, the property owners would like that.
Well, the rule in other areas
Yeah.
vis-à-vis for rent signs is what? You can't have them in other zones? Or you can?
Can't have temporary signs.
And no carve out for rent signs, for sale signs?
That's what was kind of ironic with when we were doing this review of the code, is that the only place in the town of Somers which is allowed a temporary sign is the Business Historic District, for so many days every 6 months. So this would be removing that component and then looking at how to deal with an issue that Dr. Anandi's bringing up.
Are other signs allowed in the town, or is it just the business historic? Because I'm confused about that.
No.
Those temporary signs are not.
I mean, maybe a carve-out would be a commercial, for commercial purposes, a temporary sign.
No?
No.
Oh, I mean, going forward, I mean, if
Going
we,
forward, I mean, looking for a
we,
solution
you know,
that sort of
develop
maintains
the-
continuity, but has some rational justification to,
Is the objection
Kinda help
because
some
it
of the
detracts from the look of the
I think
town,
so.
or?
I think so.
Well, if you had a
In
lot of
some places
signs
it gets
along the
abused.
street that had a lot of colors, pictures, I don't think that lends to the historic character of what we're kind of proud of here and the heritage of it and Old Bet and all that.
I agree.
The question is whether or not what you're talking about would have the same effect, and should that then be allowed where it's not in other parts of Somers? Is there a reason why that's, something we've been wrestling with for a bit?
I just thought if it's black and white, whatever size you decide, and someone wants a different
and then,
color.
then the other issue is how long does a sign like that remain?
That's a fair point.
I mean, before, the incident that presented itself to the town and we went out to enforce a problem with signage, only to learn that there are no for rent or for signs sales allowed. I mean, there were for rent for sale signs up for 15 years. Which, and the fact of the matter, and you would have to agree, when you drive through the historic district now, it is really uncluttered and very attractive. So,
I agree. I mean, the larger signs I thought took away from and were not attractive. But I'm talking about a small sign, and if it was all white, black on white,
okay. All right. Well,
No,
thank you for
it's-
your comments.
To your point, it just seems that, we are talking about the business historic preservation district, right? So some reasonable amount of signage, I would think, is reasonable in the business historic district.
I'd be happy
Where we draw the line is
with
open
anything.
for
If
debate.
you want to give it like a time limit, that's fine. But anything that would help us like fill up the empty space.
It'd be hard to call it a temporary sign if it's up there for 15 years, though.
15 years.
No,
is
15
a
is not
stretch.
So probably a little
15
shorter
years is a
period
little
than
long.
that would be good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here for, come on up.
My name is Ralph Rajate. We own the property at 361 Route 202 here in Somers. That's at the corner of Route 16 and 202. Got the cemetery on my left and Heritage Hills on my right. Some of you may know it as the Stone Springs property. I'm speaking with regard to the sign situation. Curiosity question before I start. Residential for sale signs allowed in the town of Somers? I don't know offhand. Are they?
Yeah, you can put a residential for sale. sign.
Brokers can put up a for sale sign or what have you in the town on property.
It's not in our
residential
code.
home.
Yes, you can.
That was our public hearing last week. There was a petition to consider doing that, because it's omitted in our code.
No,
For sale, for let signs.
I think it is.
It's what?
I think you're allowed to have one for sale sign, no sold.
That's not what the building department, they went out and took all the for sale signs away from
Throughout the town?
throughout the business historic district.
No, he asked
No, no.
about the
Oh,
town.
I'm
No.
sorry.
He asked throughout
Yeah, I'm curious throughout the town of Somers. Are there restrictions on for sale signs for residential properties was my curiosity.
You can put one sign on your property
Right,
for sale
okay,
and then
all
sold.
right.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the case. All right. I'm also a real estate broker for about 40 years, and I've served in all kinds of capacities at the state level and the local level here in Westchester County. Speaking on the issue of the of signage, the residential real estate market is entirely different than the commercial market. If you Google right now homes for sale in Somers, you'll see not only the National Association of Realtors come up, the local MOS, and umpteen pages of real estate brokers, et cetera, and so on. All very happily, we'll sell you a home or sell a home for you in town of Somers or Westchester for that matter. If you do a search for commercial properties for for sale in the town of Somers. You get LoopNet, and then you get one or two insignificant type listings that a local realtor may have listed, but you will not find any of the commercial brokerage houses in Westchester County. And it's an entirely different market. The internet is full of everything for residential, and most of our company sites have, I can safely say, probably 99% of what's available on the market on the internet website for residential. But you don't find anything like that in commercial. You don't have the cooperation in the commercial real estate industry as you do here in the residential real estate market. Because of that, I think it's imperative that we, as property owners, have the right to put something up. And it doesn't have to be a billboard, and you don't have to have my face on the sign, okay? But, and I'm all for the idea of a setback. You don't want it on public property. I don't think a window respectfully works. And I think for safety, you don't want people driving, looking at a 90-degree angle to see if there's a sign in the window. But some sort of a setback and perhaps some limitation as far as what some communities will do is they'll limit it to 2 square feet. Some communities, actually not so much in Westchester, but in Westchester you may have 16 feet back, 10 feet back, 12 feet back, depending upon the community, and where they don't care about the sign of the sign, within reason, to 2 feet is what I see. Connecticut, you'll see in some towns where they'll tell them it could be like 1 square foot and it's only a phone number, and they're not even allowed to put the name of the realtor, whatever, on there, all right? But maybe I digress. As a property owner, I do find that the local community, real estate community, will bring people to me for 500 square feet when I got a small office, or 600-700 square feet. But once I hit 1,000, 1,200, 2,400, I find that the sign works, and it seems to me, in my own personal experience with the space I have, that both of my larger spaces were rented a few years ago, and I'm now available for new tenants. But both came from signage and nothing from the real estate community, only the small stuff. So that's my concern. I would like to be able to put a sign out when I need to say I have space, definitely remove it when I don't. And you can take it from there. You can restrict it, setbacks, signage. You could, if you want to say colors, God bless, do colors. But I would like to have something available, particularly in the commercial market, and I think most of your historical district is commercial zoned. If I'm correct, there's not much in the way of residential in there. Yeah,
Maybe 1 or 2 houses.
yeah, that's what I thought. So we could
There.
use the help, trust me. And I pay taxes. I don't know if they're exorbitant, but I pay taxes too.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here for public comment? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Rick DiNardo, represent Wrights Court, a couple other tenants down the road. First, I want to say that supervisor was nice enough to meet with myself and a couple of the other business people during the week last week, and we discussed our concerns and brought them to the table. And now we're bringing them to the board. And I think out of the entire meeting, the most important thing that came out of it was the fact that there is no uniformity in the sign code at all. And perfect example is tonight. Tonight's meeting is on event and event signs. And we're discussing for sale, for rent, temporary signs. Nobody knows what the sign code is. And I think that before we go any further with a public hearing, with making rules, laws, and regulations, let's sit down, let's figure what works for everybody. Then we'll bring it to the table. So I'm requesting and asking of the board that we continue this public hearing, or we leave it open until we've had an opportunity for the merchants, for the residents, anybody else that wants to sit down. Let's talk about what we need to do to clarify this and to find a compromise that everybody's happy with. Am I headed in the right direction? I mean, do we
I think
agree? I
so.
mean, I've heard more.
This is
for
public
sale-
comments. You
No, 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 no,
comment,
I'm
we
saying-
take it in.
What I'm saying is, I've heard more about for sale and for rent, and in case anybody didn't know, that was the public hearing in the summer that we didn't know about. So that just went that way. So, and then next week is the public hearing about temporary signs. So tonight
No,
is
not
only-
next week. It's not next
So
week.
let's
No,
think-
he's talking about tonight.
Yeah. No, on the 13th, don't we have
No.
another public hearing?
There's no.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
primary
Originally
on
was,
the
was.
13th.
Yeah, there's no
13th,
meeting on the
yeah,
13th.
That
So again,
memo.
my point is that there's three separate issues here, and we're commingling them together. And I just think that because there's lack of information on everybody's part. And the fact of restricting, I'm all for, keeping the historic district, pristine and making visually appealing, because, we're all here for, our businesses and ourselves and for the town, and we just want to make what's best for everybody. But I don't think that, having a public hearing, making a decision tonight is going to solve this, because I think it's just going to complicate things even more.
Okay,
Okay,
appreciate that.
thank you. Anyone else here? Yeah. Jim.
Good evening, Jim Boniello. I'm a resident of town, resident of the town, and also own some property, commercial property in the town, in the business historic preservation district. You mentioned that you want to level the playing field, but maybe consider, instead of changing the law to not allow signs or temporary signs or event signs, or like Rick was saying, a lot of it's confusing, but maybe instead of not allowing the signs, changing the law to not allow the signs in the business district, being that in the rest of the town, there is no enforcement of the signs that are put out there. And so instead of leveling the playing field and saying, okay, we're not going to allow it in the business district, maybe we allow it in the business district to level the playing field that's in the rest of the town. Because what it's going to lead to is going to be selective enforcement. You're not enforcing the signs outside the business district, but you're looking for a way to control what goes on inside the district. So it's going to lead to selective enforcement.
Okay, I'm just going to take exception to that comment that we're not enforcing the code. At our meeting, I asked each and every one of you to go over to our building department. There's stacks of signs, temporary signs, that are picked up routinely. If the building inspector were here right now and heard that, he would say, a good percentage of my job is because we get complaints all the time. Code enforcement, and this goes throughout all municipalities, is generated by complaints. So when you say selective enforcement, I get a negative connotation from that. If there is, it's not intentional. And
Right,
when
but
we're
it's
brought-
only, the signs that are picked up are based on complaints.
Yeah.
And if no one's gonna complain about, a sign that is in South Somers that there's not a lot of traffic there and stuff, it's allowed, because it's not.
No,
it's
no,
not
unless they
picked
see
up.
it, they'll pick it up.
Right, or if someone complains about it.
Right.
So it's not just if somebody sees it from the town, but the trigger, I guess, is a complaint. And so that's what I'm talking about, because there's going to be more eyes in this district than in other parts of the town, which is, in my opinion, is going to be lead to selective enforcement. So that's my
Okay.
opinion.
So Jim, are you saying that you would agree with the other speakers in that the for rent or whatever sign of some small, is that what you're saying you advocate for?
I think it has to be regulated. I would love to see a cohesive sign ordinance put in place. So everyone is on the same page, and it makes the town look better. We don't want banners and lit signs and all over the place either. But I think a cohesive ordinance would benefit the town, and not pick on one person that is in the middle of town in the district.
So you're not just referring, what's in front of us tonight is the business district, the historic district. You're talking more in general for the town itself
Yes.
as an offshoot of this hearing here
Yes,
tonight.
exactly. You know, just a cohesive sign ordinance that people could understand, you know, and that everybody could live with.
Well, I think all laws should be written in plain language and be clear, so
Yeah.
maybe that's something that should be looked at.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No, that's a good suggestion. Thank you. Anyone else here for public comment? Yes.
Oh,
About temporary signs.
hey.
My name is Doug Abdelnour. I live on Gene Way. I sent an email to some of you last year in December. I don't know if you got it. It's a little busy. My question is about mostly regarding St. Luke's Church and the banners. Denise Schumer from the town office, from time to time would call church and say, you gotta take the banners down because it's in the historic district, you're not allowed to have banners. There are a couple of reasons why church really, I think, should be allowed to hang banners as a form of announcing certain things, not just for religious things, but for other concerts and things that are going on. It's kind of a mainstay. But I think besides all of that, there is an exemption for a lot of this to things that are prior to 2003. Church has been there since 1835. They've been hanging banners for a long time. Some of you remember that on 2011, the day of 2011, Father James had a big banner made for a prayer meeting that night after 2011. And the church was packed from all kinds of people. So my question is basically, what is the deal with hanging banners to announce programs, non-denominational things, all kinds of stuff? You know, you all know what goes on at the church, basically. A meets there, a lot of things go on, whatever. So are there certain exemptions that are allowed for that, and how do we figure out what is allowed, what's not allowed, and so on? Anyway, I got those pages here, what the exemptions are. Denise kind of knows what they are, but I'll give you these things.
Please.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's just 2 copies of the email that I sent and the exemption.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that, Doug.
I'm keeping
Yes. Anyone else for a comment?
Give it to Rick.
I think I got my answer.
Oh,
I think I got my answer because I just wanted to clarify temporary signs versus for rent, for sale, what have you.
okay.
So I know it's a boy, it's a girl, it's a carnival, it's a flower sale, fine, but when it's on the market, I gotta sell, or please help me, I gotta find a tenant and get the revenue back up. That, we love it to be temporary, but it doesn't always work that way, so that's my comment.
What would you say that, are you saying there should be no time limit on it, or what would you say?
I would say no time limit. Being a real estate person, long story short, cut to the chase. If it's reasonable, price-wise, et cetera, something will happen. For a person to have a sign up for sale for a year, 2 years, whatever, I'm not buying it, personally. Same thing for rent, if it's forever, I mean, it just means we've got some sort of other motive, but we're not realistic to the
Well, that would have been
marketplace.
my guess. I mean, supply and demand does take care of those things.
It-
If you have a certain
it
price, you're not
works its
selling,
way out.
you better change that price or don't
Yeah,
sell.
It
So.
does. As you know, with PepsiCo and IBM, et cetera, there was one article, it's changed since, but they figure there's 1.6 million of square footage available in commercial space in this area. And that puts a lot of pressure on us down here downtown, if you're in the historic district. That sets a bar, if you will, for what we can and can't do. And that is the competition. So we're looking for a segment or a niche, if you will, type of person that won't necessarily be as happy in a corporate scheme as up one of the hills, if you will, versus here in the historic district. But there's a market for everything. You just got to know the market. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. Is there anyone else here for public comment? Return speaker.
Last time I was the only one to make comments.
Maybe you want to go in the microphone?
Oh, last time I was the only one to make comments, but I'm so happy to see that the other folks are here tonight. I think all of us are agreeing. Like, I think that we've been in Somers for a while, and we don't want large signs, and if you want us to have a meeting and say, should it be 1 by 1 or 2 by 2, it's okay. Any kind of sign, like a phone number, or, for rent with phone number, anything is fine. So I think all of us are saying that we need help to have signage to fill up our space. I don't know that the business historic district is that much different than the other parts. And if we're going to have sidewalks and you want people to be walking to different sections, you want it to be successful. You don't want to have empty space. So I think that I don't know how many more meetings you want, but I think we all agree that give us 1 by 1, give us 2 by 2, give us whatever you want, but give us something so we could fill up space.
Let me ask you a question, and you may not know the answer, and that's fine, because I don't know the answer. So if, like tonight, you said you can put up, whether it be 1 by 1, 2 by 2, black and white, whatever, how many spaces are available along in the district, would you imagine, or you have no idea?
No, it's nice to know. I mean, I've been in town for a long time. In my office, I know there's 2 suites, which are 2 suites out of 6 are filled. It used to be 6 out of 6. These are small suites. I know that my neighbor, I've never met him other than seeing his face tonight, but I know that he has space because you see less plaques. I know that Mr. Boniello is going to have lots of space there. So I think there's space available, but it's nice for people to know what space is available so they can go and.
I guess the unintended consequence would be, and all these are, from my point of view, very rational sorts of requests. I think that, what if it was sign, oh my God, that's not what we had intended to have happen. Would you offer any suggestion about that?
Yeah.
To limit that?
I think that it's good for us to know. I mean, Somers is a terrific town. There shouldn't be so much empty space. People are moving north, so it's good to know. I mean, if people pass by and they see lots of sign, they'll say, wow, maybe this is a good place to open up an office because I can negotiate. I can go across the street, I can go over here, we'll negotiate, we'll get a great deal. And then the space will get filled.
It could have that consequence. It could have other consequence. In terms of the look, the affect, how people feel about their town. That's what I'm referring to. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to look at it from all sides.
Yeah. Small signs, not big signs. No pictures, small signs.
Okay, so clearly, what we're hearing tonight, there is not an adversarial relationship here.
No.
We've met. I wanted the board to hear, what your concerns are. We've struggled with signage in this town for quite some time, and Jim, I agree with you with, this isn't allowed, these aren't allowed, banners at the church, message board, and a banner at the church. The town, Bailey Park, regulates a banner. So I think ultimately we all have the same interest, is do what is best for the town wide and what is best for the historic district. So we're still in the public hearing, so if you want to make another comment, you can, because
Comment was with regard to residential, but to give you an example, it's on the internet as well. The town of New Canaan, the local board there, they all decided too many houses on the market, and they self-imposed a 6-month ban,
Yeah.
and the town was also going to propose a ban as well. It didn't last 6 months.
What happened?
They didn't enforce the ban. They felt that with the inventory increasing in their situation, there was so much that they needed to sell. They felt that they were strangling their market, and they needed the signs. And they agreed to. They stopped their the real estate board stopped their self-imposed ban and started putting out
Yeah,
signs.
that wasn't even the municipality,
Yeah.
it was the real estate.
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
discussed
Yeah,
this
just
back
as
in
a-
May or June or something,
but
so that's interesting.
New Canaan pulled back on banning the signs there on residential. It is considered an infringement on free speech, limiting signs with regard to size, distance, et cetera. That's fine, but there are a couple of communities on a residential side, 1 or 2 in Westchester come to mind. It's more of an agreement with the brokers as well, but that's another form of something we don't want to get into, of why they don't want signs. Okay, and you'll see that in a small village in 1 or 2 spots. On the residential side, it has gone as high as the Supreme Court, and they looked upon it as an infringement of free speech. So that's why a lot of communities said, okay, we don't want you hanging up billboards and colors and flyers and neon signs, but let's have some, some control, some consistency, which of course is what you would want here in the historic district. So if we had signs that kind of all complied and they were all similar, et cetera, it wouldn't look like a carnival, if you will. That would make sense.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the issue that we brought up at our meeting last week was, our town attorney will back me up hopefully on this, is once you approve temporary signage or any kind of sign, you cannot limit what's in that box, what's in that square. So if the town says, okay, we're going to allow temporary signage, that really opens the door to
Any kind of-
advertising, statements, public statements, and it is a freedom of speech issue. And there's a lot of litigation on that issue. But what, and the board and I will, if you're in agreement, this will be my suggestion, that I'll make a motion to adjourn the public hearing with the hopes that we can get a representation of your group together. I'll make the town attorney available to, when an issue comes up that we need some legal clarification on. I thought there were some great suggestions that came out of our work group. If you're gonna have a temporary sign, you make it of such a material, you make an investment in that sign. So it wouldn't be one of these political signs in plastic that everybody just sticks down on the ground, but it would be something that's very substantial, but you'd be able to have that placed out in front of your business. I do, I think the point that Councilman Clinchie was making about if everybody was able to have a for-rent sale for as long as it takes to rent their property, you might see in the historic district, sign after sign after sign after sign, and I don't know that any of you would want that. So, in essence, what we need to do, and believe me, I welcome the help on this, if we can come up with something that's good for the town. It's something that use the map room. You're all here. You can go back and and we'll entertain anything you do. But all right. So at this point, we'll adjourn the public hearing and to a later date, and hopefully, we can start some amendments to the signage code. So do I need to?
Jeremy's are stopping the discussion and we're not.
Can I get a second on the adjournment?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved.
I think,
Okay.
So, yeah, get your ideas together. We're not gonna rule on this tonight.
Not now.
If they wanna go back there and go, Dennis,
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
thanks.
No, I have a meeting to run.
We're not gonna do this tonight. They can go get their
No,
eyes together.
right, that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna
Yeah,
sit
since
back
they're all
there and-
together. Since they're all together, they can get back.
Jim,
Well, one more public hearing.
you're just going to discuss it. We're not expecting you to come back. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Tell them after you finish the discussion.
Yeah. Unless you solve the problem and then race back in
Give us
here.
the-
Okay, our next agenda item is a public hearing for a proposed local law to amend Chapter 128 entitled Parks, amending Section 128-21, Park Rules and Regulations of the Town of Somers. Can I have publishing and posting on that, Patty?
That was published in the Somers Record and posted on the town clerk's bulletin board on August 23rd.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And just reference the memo from our park superintendent, Steve Ralston. Basically, the crux of the rules and regulation is to ban smoking in all our parks. Smoking is banned already in all our town buildings. This would extend that same ban to parks, all of our parks. In addition, we will have a copy of superintendent's memo. He was, as long as we're going to make some amendments to the code, we're talking about adding mountain biking. Let's see.
We're prohibiting, not adding.
Yeah, no, prohibiting. It's already prohibited
Dumping. but
in the
dumping
Anglefly Preserve, but extend that to the parks. Prohibiting of dumping. Remove, believe it or not, it's not in the
It
code.
says littering. I would presume littering is dumping, but, yeah.
Remove all after prohibited for section H. Patty, you're saying that
We can't amend that.
we can't amend that?
We can't amend that currently because it's chapter 64 where their amendment is for chapter 128. So doesn't that need to be its own public hearing?
You're referring to hunting?
No, number H, alcoholic
alcoholic
beverage
beverage?
prohibited.
Well, the point that Steve made to me was that there's another section in the code that allowed you to get a permit for beverages, but they don't do that anymore in parks.
Right.
So he wanted it to just be prohibited. What you do with the other section, if there are other town buildings where you can have a permit for beverages, you might want to keep that.
The park was the only place you could have a permit for alcoholic beverages. There's no alcoholic beverages allowed in any town property, except for the.
So not even by permit, if someone
No,
wanted to have?
only at the park.
Only at the park. So yeah, then we need a separate hearing to take that section out.
Okay.
Were you thinking that people should be drinking during the town board meeting here at the?
I don't know, it might make it a little slower.
Some may want it, I don't know. I don't think we allow it.
Okay, so with
So
the,
what section, what code, what chapter was that?
that's,
He was saying that it, as noted in chapter 64. And then on the next.
they're saying remove prohibited. There's no longer permit available. The exception also is noted in chapter 64, under 64.5.
Yeah.
In my opinion, these extra items
These are the sections that reference.
seem to possibly miss process and protocol. We've had a lot of discussion about smoking in the parks, and I'm guessing we all agree on what we want to do there. I'm not sure we've given enough thought to all these other items, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, to throw them in with the one that we've been talking about for
Right,
a
well,
while.
the fact of the matter, if we're going to amend the code for one prohibiting smoking, and this is really housekeeping duties that he's making a point of. The one actually with ice skating.
Okay.
Well, we don't permit ice skating anymore, so there's no need to post signs saying no ice skating. But, so that's what this public hearing is about, to amend the Parks and Rules and Regulations. So I'll ask if there's anyone here for public comment. Seeing and hearing none, we'll further our discussion before I close the hearing, but, so we'll exempt number 8, because that would be a separate, excuse me, H.
No, you want it in here, but we'll have to have a separate public hearing to conform.
Because it
Chapter
touches another
64.
So we leave it in for this, and then we'll have to do it,
Separate public hearing.
in effect, the
Because
same thing. but
Chapter
in a-
64 says
Okay.
you can have a permit.
Ah,
We don't want the two to conflict.
Right.
okay.
So
Okay.
it may be as simple as eliminating chapter 64.
Which
Got
We'll
it.
have to look at
Which
it.
can be addressed in the code recodification.
Yes. But you can go ahead. I do notice a typo in K. No person shall skate. It should be skate.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so that's probably a good idea.
Okay, no person,
Most people don't say.
oh, it's, person shall skate.
This one's a sake.
Okay, it's corrected on mine, but, what does yours say?
S-A-K-E.
Sake.
Oh, yeah, that.
No person shall sake, slip.
No,
walk,
yeah,
or
the copy
go.
I have here says skate.
Oh,
Spell
Okay.
check on it.
So,
But we'll
I got sake.
clean it
Or
up.
sake, depending,
Saki.
as
yes.
you. You may
Okay.
not sake on ice.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion to adopt an environmental assessment form and declare negative declaration.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
that's on chapter 128, Parks, 128.
And then I'll make a motion to adopt the amendments to chapter 128 as discussed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
I think that the point here is that these are simply clarifications of what already exists.
Yes.
So even if you take what brought it to light was the smoking. And so if you're in Reese Park, the rules as they were would seem to have indicated that you may not smoke, but there was someone who brought it to the attention, really right near the playground, that, well,
Yeah.
I'm not sure, does that really say that? And it wasn't as clear perhaps as it could be to all parties, so this is to make it perfectly clear. And in doing that and looking through, the Parks Department said, here are some other things that we could clarify, and that's the purpose of all these things.
Very good. Okay, I'll make a motion to open public comment. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Something here, we don't have to close anything.
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. And I'll ask if there's anyone here for public comment. Seeing and hearing no one, I'll make a motion to close public comment.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. All right, moving on. Approval, excuse me, department reports. Patty.
I have reports from the town clerk, building inspector, zoning board of appeals, plumbing, Bureau of Fire Prevention, Parks and Recreation, planning and engineering, tax receiver, and director of finance.
Thank you. Okay, our next item under town board is town engineering projects update. And with us this evening is Joe Barbagallo, the town's engineering consultant. And Joe, bring the board up to date.
Good evening, everyone. I think
Good
the last-
evening.
The last time I was in front of the board, I think it was in July, and I said was gonna do this in August, and for some reason I forgot about a 2-week vacation I had planned, so I appreciate the board's
Never forget
patience.
vacation.
But you notice I never take any, so I guess that's why it
Yeah,
wasn't on my mind.
exactly.
but- So we have a number of things going on. I'm gonna give you a verbal update on a couple, and there's a couple actions that I'm going to ask for. So, first I wanted to give you an update on the water main project. This is the project that is going to, associated with the Hidden Meadows and Somers Realty that we so fondly refer to as Adams Loop. That is gonna connect the water main from Windsor Farms over to Mayapack Avenue, which is gonna complete the loop. We put that out to bid in the spring. We had some challenges with the bid amounts that had come in that we have worked through with the funding parties here, which, to remind the board, the one portion, the Hidden Meadows portion is being funded through the IMA with Westchester County. So that's going to be county money, and any overage of that is backed up by Kearney Realty. And then the piece from Hidden Meadows up to Mayapack Avenue is being paid for by Somers Realty. And all of their money is sitting in escrow in the town. So all the funds now are in place. All the approvals are in place, the negotiations are in place, and the supervisor received earlier this week a fully executed contract with all the bonds and insurances. And I would anticipate that that would be signed, and you'll start seeing some activity out there shortly. We revised the schedule on that. Originally, the goal was to try to get that entire project built by the end of this year. Given the delays, we ran into some complications with the schedule with winter, so we've kind of segregated it into two parts. So this fall, the initial part is going to be focused on the water main aspects of the work, most importantly coming down Windsor Road and going in the right-of-way on Route 6, including the directional drill under the Muscoot River. Shut down for the winter, and then in the spring, the road widening aspects that are part of the Hidden Meadows project would commence then. That actually works out to be a good thing in that we're now not going to deal with any winter conditions associated with maintenance and protection of traffic over the course of the winter if they were trying to do the whole project. Originally, we had a shorter construction schedule that we've extended to accommodate this. The price has held. And again, I'll just reiterate, this is going to be completed with no out-of-pocket expenditure on behalf of the town. So
And it benefits everyone because it makes the water supply more secure.
it's a benefit to many aspects. It loops the Northern Westchester Joint Waterworks water mains, right? So now
You have diversity.
there's full redundancy. So if we have a break on our side, now we'll pull water out of Yorktown. Similarly, if Yorktown has a break, they'll be able to pull water out of our side. So it actually is very beneficial not only for the planned hamlet, but for the overall water district. It also prevents dead ends, which will improve water quality for our residents. So it's going to increase pressure, which is going to help with firefighting activities, most importantly in the planned hamlet. So it's a very, very, very good project, and it's been long in coming, but I'm happy to report that we're on the verge of getting started, and you'll start seeing some activity out there.
The last time you were with us, with Carney, there was an issue about cash flow, and they wanted to do it, I think, after it was finished, something like that.
We resolved all those issues.
That was all resolved?
I don't want to necessarily say that. I actually, since that meeting, I've had the I told you so conversation with Ken on that, because we actually ran into that where the IM delayed, signing got delayed, and our bills were sitting out there for 9 months, and but we're through it. That's all behind us. We're moving forward.
Okay, so that is resolved.
It's all resolved.
Good.
Everything is moving forward. So that project is moving along. Next month, we will be here, I'll give you an update on the salt shed, and we'll start putting forth some plans on the salt shed to utilize the grant money from Senator Murphy. There's a series of approvals at the county that are in process right now to release the the EOH grants, and our grant consultant has secured SAM grants. I know the board is familiar with this. We brought you up to date in the July meeting. You approved the funding balance, and we're anticipating having those plans ready in the fall. The goal is we're going to bid that this fall for construction in the spring, so that we can anticipate getting good pricing by, being the first project on some contractors' spring docket. So.
Right, Joe, I think we use the term salt shed. It's really a misnomer.
True.
Maybe you just explain.
Let me explain.
Public.
So yes, and I appreciate you saying that, Rick. This project started with the terminology of a salt shed, but we have a salt shed, right? So when we started digging in, I originally thought, okay, we need more salt capacity. But I actually sat down with Tommy and went through what we're looking to do. Is
That's
right.
the highway supervisor, Tom.
Yes, supervisor. Yes, superintendent of highways.
Highway superintendent.
What's happening now is the salt is received and dumped on the ground, okay? And then they take that salt and they load it into a hopper and treat it with brine and then convey it into the salt shed that exists today. That operation of dumping a stockpile of salt outdoors is not illegal, but it's surely not a best practice for protecting water quality, especially within the proximity to the reservoir. So this project is really to really build a receiving building for the salt, so that the building will receive the salt, and then there'll be maneuverability behind that building to load the conveyors, and then it will still take it into the existing salt shed. So it's really a salt processing operation to supplement, you know, our overall town operations. So, we are going to locate it as you drive into the highway. It'll be right in front of you. We had a little hurdle with the DOT. There was a former right-of-way for Route 100, but we've, through our explorations, we learned that in 1951, they basically abandoned that property to the town of Somers. So that was good because we didn't require any approvals from.
We cut through some red tape there. didn't we?
That was an easy one, right?
Very
So
good.
I thought we were going to get stuck in Poughkeepsie, but it actually was a phone call and it worked out pretty well. And I would like to,
Don't get stuck in Poughkeepsie.
you know, Michael LaRose at the DOT was extremely helpful to work with, and you know, very much helped shepherd that process, which was nice. It was a nice change for our regional, you know, our regional engineer to work with in that way. So the next project I want to talk to you about is the Shenorock Stormwater Project. I'm going to put up a board here, and I did bring, see that? So I did bring some handouts so you can see what, and maybe you can just pass those around. There's two sheets. Take two, you know, two sheets that I'm going to talk about. This explains what we're doing with the.
You want them to?
Over there.
You got 'em. Yeah, we got 'em. Yep.
So, just as a refresh, last year we coordinated with our grant consultant, Jay O'Connell, and we secured $847,500. $847,500 to make stormwater improvements to benefit Lake Shenorock. We had originally conceptualized the project as ringing the lake with a swale that would intercept stormwater and allow it to settle before overflowing into the lake. That required, in order to achieve the phosphorus reductions that not only benefit us from the EOH perspective, but were also central to receiving this grant, the field conditions were not there were really two reasons why we moved away from that approach. One is the field conditions were not ideal for what we were seeking to accomplish, and second of all,
Meaning the area around the lake? was-
yes, we didn't have enough separation to the groundwater there, right? The depths were when we did our initial measurements, the lake was lower, and then in the spring, the lake came up, and we didn't really have the separation. We didn't do field investigations at the time of the grant. So when we did the field investigations, we realized the soils don't perk in the way that we'd like them to, and there's not as much separation of groundwater as we would like there to be. So that was reason one. The second was, as the board knows, we've been working very closely with the community to restore some of our lake communities as part of our lake program, sustainable lake program initiative, and so ringing the lake was also going to restrict some recreational opportunities. So we looked at another alternative, and the alternative we looked at was how can we achieve stormwater quality improvements, protect the lake from sediment and further erosion that's happening at the discharges, and also create some beautification elements too, to show the community that we're moving in the direction of improving the character of the lake. So where we have landed on that through a lot of coordination with the DEC and East of Hudson, because East of Hudson will be providing the matching funds, another project with no out-of-pocket expenditures on behalf of the town, are to put at the bottom of the hill where you can see on your plan there are a series of pipes that cross the road and discharge into the lake. What we're going to be doing is installing on those a number of hydrodynamic separators. So what these are is the water comes in and it essentially spins through the unit in a way that the sediment falls out, essentially, right? So it basically removes sediment, and phosphorus is attached to sediment, and we're going to, in that way, be able to remove the sediment, and then we're going to stabilize the channels, which right now are eroded, and dumping additional sediment into the lake. Stabilize those channels with riprap, and you know, prior to this, so that they run into the lake in a nice stabilized laminar flow fashion.
Are those the two coming up Lakeview Drive?
There
that what I
are,
see?
yes, there are three stable, there are two units along Lake Drive, 3 stabilizations, and then one on the corner of,
Okay, yep, I got
up
it.
there, right? So those are, and then if you see, as you go closer to the entrance to the water department, you'll see there's another one over there.
Okay, yep.
So what happens to the sediment?
Then on an annual basis, that is gonna have to be vacuumed out.
Vacuumed out.
But it's not, and there's no cartridges, this is not like what we have at Reese Park. This is very similar to the activities that the highway department has to do every year to vacuum out catch basins. This will just be another location to another, 4 locations.
So
to
this is the
stop.
highway department responsibility.
Correct.
typically.
Oh, that was my question.
Yes.
And right now, that sediment's all just being deposited right into the
Right
side
into
of
the lake. And that's why we've seen the lake, I mean,
Yeah, I know,
it's getting shallower, you know, every time I go to seek grant money from a agency, I say, well, if you come down with if you wait another month and into the end of August and you come down with your snowshoes, you might be able to walk across the lake, and that helps get us grant money. So,
Well, will this
Not-
make it deeper? Will
it's not
or
gonna
we
make
have
it
to
deeper,
dredge
it's gonna prevent it from,
from eutrophying entirely?
From future funding. And one of the important things is this is obviously not a one and done, right? We have a long-term view on how to address all of our lake communities, including Shenorock. And there's the water quality grants in which we received the money to do this project from, does allow for dredging.
I was gonna say, that's the way you're gonna make it deeper. You're gonna take
Does
it out.
allow for dredging. However, they will not fund dredging until all upstream opportunities have been realized, right? So,
Okay, I get it.
so we're working on the upstream opportunities
Once
right
that's
now.
done, then we can go back.
Then
and
we
say,
can
"Right,
go
so-
back in for dredging. So I think it's, it's a multi-year process here, right? So
Yeah.
this year, we got this money, we're gonna use it for this purpose. I actually am quite confident that we're not gonna use all the money, and I've received clarification from the DEC. If we don't use it all on this project, we could use it on another project as long as it's tributary to Lake Shenorock. So that's a good thing.
Right, so the end game here is to revitalize this dying lake.
Correct.
So you have to take steps. One is, let's prevent the sediment from going in. The next step would be prevent failing septic systems from going into the
Correct.
lake. And then dredging. And so this is
We have to dig.
some lofty goals here, but I think they're attainable.
Yes, and the good news is, funding agencies like to fund ongoing projects that are leveraging off of, so I think that we'll have opportunities for funds in future cycles.
Well,
So-
we
so
talked
does this-
about this, probably, you went to Albany on behalf of this, I remember distinctly, 8 years ago,
Yeah.
maybe more. So this has been a discussion for a long time.
This has been a discussion for a long time.
And one question I have is, can that money be used, now the various things we've talked about over time, including for a while when we're just talking about a park district, this create all sorts of contentiousness, was whether we can add any recreation
No.
to it,
The
like a
money-
trail around it.
Well, let me get to that. So the answer is no.
We've got an
Okay.
idea for that, though.
The answer is no, it has to
Alright.
be used for water quality purposes.
Okay.
Because it's a competitive grant and you can't repurpose the grant outside of the base fundamentals, which were water quality improvements,
Gotcha.
yes.
So does this address all the phosphorus issues in
No.
this? No.
No,
portion.
what we've done here is we're gonna remove about 7.5 kilograms
And that's
of
what?
phosphorus.
10%? What are we thinking?
So, I haven't done the calculation on the entire community, but let me give you an example of the town's obligations are to remove 50 kilograms of
Right.
phosphorus over 5 years. So this project represents
to
almost
it.
20% of what the
Right.
town's obligations are. So it's a nice project. The EOH is therefore going to provide the matching funds. And even though, they're not willing to fund all the elements, and I'll finish going through the other elements. However, the money that we're looking for them, that would represent 25% of the grant amount, is going to deliver phosphorus reductions to them in the order of 30,000 a kilogram, which is about half what they're paying.
Yeah,
So,
awesome.
we've sequenced this project, you see in the memorandum that's in your package. We've sequenced this project for a speedy bid and award, but not award until after the EOH's board meeting at the end of September, so that we want to receive bids before that, have hard numbers, real numbers, walk into that board meeting and say, here are the numbers, here's how much money we're looking for, get approval for them so that the board therefore, so that the supervisor therefore would have the authority to award that contract and get moving in October so that we can get these done. Because some of these units have, 4 to 6 week lead times on them, and we really want to get that process started. I think it's really important. The community is anxious, and I think it would be very positive for us to be moving forward in that
So that
direction.
green surface U that's there, is that the phosphorus? Is that what's gonna
The
go away?
phosphorus is the food that feeds the algae,
Yeah.
right? The
So we'll
algae
see
is
that
nourished through
we'll
the.
see that reduced.
We won't see it get worse, right? This project, this project will help to benefit. I can't say that it's
Right,
going
if
to.
there's already stuff there.
There's already phosphorus there, right?
Right.
There's already, it's not going to be a.
It's not disappearing.
But I can envision over time, if we can continue down this path, I think within a 5 to 7 year time period, we could be looking at a lake in the summertime with no algae in it.
What's interesting about this type of thing, though, all these phosphorus projects that we do, or sort of desktop analysis, that say, if we do this, that'll generate a goal of that much phosphorus, and we meet our goals. This is gonna have a result that we're gonna be able to see.
We will definitely, we'll see it.
Over
because-
time,
Well, over time, what's gonna happen is, right now, if you look at where all these pipes discharge, go look in the water, you're gonna see a moraine of sediment that's dumping into the lake, and then that washes through the lake over time,
Yes.
and that's why the lake is filling up, and as it fills up, the sun heats it up more, and you put the phosphorus with the heat of the sun and the lack of oxygen, well, guess what happens, right? You get these conditions to develop, so.
Okay, sorry,
So-
digress.
Out of curiosity, several years ago, there's a plan over at Lake Purdy's, which I supported. How much phosphorus were we talking about there? How many kilograms were we talking about there?
I don't remember.
Was that 10?
I want to say that was on the order of, I want to say it was closer to 20 kilograms.
It was
that
a
we were-
lot.
That was a big project.
What we're doing, what we have planned here, is that something then that can be replicated in Lincolndale or in Purdy's?
Yeah.
But it would require the
We
grant.
could probably grant the program,
If
but
this is, assuming this is as successful as we all hope, would that make it more likely that we can say, look, we've done it here, we're applying for the money, you know it's a successful thing, we'd like to do it in these other lakes?
we could do that. Some of the challenges, frankly, with using public money is you have the best chance of receiving public grants if it's being used in places for public access. So when you start dealing with private lakes that only a certain community is allowed to access, it reduces your scoring on the grant application. So
Even though the phosphorus, that was the thing about Purdy's, the phosphorus was going in the New York City water supply.
But that was a different program. That
was a
would not be
different- it was
this
a different
program. We
funding
would have to
source.
look at the EOH program, which is
Okay.
really just cares about dollars and cents around phosphorus.
Yeah.
Right now, there's some challenges around what's being funded and what's not. Right now, most of the money's going into the FAD basins, which are in Putnam
So
County.
was that $1 million project from the EOH? The $1 million one
At
at
Purdy's?
Purdy's?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was all EOH money.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it wasn't tied to the
Right.
fact that it was a private
Correct.
community, it had only to do with
It was about
phosphorus.
getting,
Correct.
keeping
Reduction.
it out
Correct.
of
So
the
let me
water
just,
supply.
if it's
But we're
okay,
still
let me-
looking for grants like that.
Yes,
Yeah, I feel bad about that
let me
project.
just finish walking through this process. So, because one of the things that I wanted to see if we can accomplish is to start to create some walkability and beautification of the lake, and figuring out the way to do that in the context of a water quality grant. And what you'll see on your plan that we've come up with is, we need to get access to these areas in order to maintain them. So we've started the beginnings of a path, and you will see the path starting by the highway, by the water department, and you will see it ring around I guess that's the eastern side of the lake,
Sure.
and it comes out by the parking area that exists right now along Lake Drive. So it's starting to create a walkable area, and in that process, and you'll see on your second sheet, is the removal of all of the invasive species. So if you drove past there today, other than what if you could see the lake, we know what the lake looks like, but a lot of places you can't even see the lake because it is contained or is blocked by invasive species that have overgrown that area. We're going to be removing those invasive species and providing a path, an access path for maintenance purposes. And that will allow, the added benefit of giving public access as well as providing maintenance. So it's a dual purpose for us.
How long, any idea how long that walking path is?
I want to say it's like 900 feet, I want to say, something like that. I would have to scale it. I
No,
remember
don't worry about it. No,
exactly
it's not
what
that, I just.
It's
yeah.
large enough to get equipment in there, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, 700 feet or something like that?
Would the idea be eventually to ring that lake, or that would, if we don't have those pipes on the other side, it's hard to?
It's also hard
justify
to access that side. It's very steep. It's very,
Is it?
it's very different. I'm going to suggest this, is that we go out to bid for this project. We go ahead and get this project, and let's see how much money we actually have left, and then seek ways to apply that money in other areas of the lake.
It's a good
I
idea.
mean, that would be a fantastic thing for that part of town. One, a cleaner lake, a more attractive lake, and also just a nice place if you can walk around. Technically, that's a town lake now.
Right, exactly.
So that would be a real plus if it can happen.
So
I
one
don't
of
think
the,
anybody thinks they're ever going to swim in that lake, though. People always say, I'm never swimming in that lake. So I don't think
Yeah,
that's a
we'll
goal
see.
for us.
we'll see.
Well,
Maybe over
okay.
time.
I
I was
swam in it.
amazed. I was up, a little digression. I went up to White
It
Pond.
might be a polar plunge, but.
I went up to White Pond in Kent on Monday, and I could not believe the amount of people swimming in that lake. And it would be nice to see that happening again
Like
around
it used
the
to,
lakes in
years ago.
in
That's what
Somers.
started
They did.
I grew up in Lake Cassie and Mapac, so I grew up on swimming
Well,
in the lake. And
I swam in Lake Shamrock.
yeah. So what we're seeking tonight is I'd like the board to give the supervisor the authority to put this project out to bid, and providing the finances work out in the way that I've described, allow him to award so that we can move expeditiously after the concurrence of the issue. I think the checks boxes would need to be, we'd have to understand, we'd have the hard numbers, right? Those numbers would be, we'd have to confirm with the EOH, the full matching funds would be allocated by the EOH, again, meeting the test of no out-of-pocket money to the town. And if those conditions were satisfied, I'd like the board to authorize the supervisor to be able to enter into a contract with the contractor to do this work. This way we can get this moving before the winter shuts us out.
Now, is this connected with the 10 million that is
No.
allocated?
We're gonna talk about that
for
next.
The SEPTA,
This
okay,
is
so we're
separate.
coming to that. Same area, but different project.
This is separate. That's
Got
the
it.
other prong. It's, as we've always
Right.
talked about the three prongs associated with our sustainable lake program. And the one prong is around stormwater quality. The second one is about removing septic waste. And the third, of course, the recreation. And I know there's a grant application that's been submitted for the recreational aspects to supplement some of the stormwater work and the sewer work we'll be talking about shortly.
So this approval essentially gets us to the point of you going out for bids in construction.
I would like the board to not only authorize the supervisor to go out to bid, but to award that contract, providing it meets the financial test that I described here this evening, as long as Roland's okay with that type of an authorization.
Well, it's unusual for a town board
Yeah.
to agree to award something
But you don't know the dollar amount.
when you don't have a dollar amount, so I
The
really
dollar
don't
amount
think we can
total or the
accomplish
dollar
that.
amount to the town? Because he's saying that should be zero.
I'm saying $0 to the
Well,
town.
yeah, but you're still controlling the grant,
Controlling 800, whatever.
which is why
It's
you
our
have to bid it.
responsibility
So
to
there's a
control it.
fiduciary component
Yeah.
to you seeing the bid prices before you award.
How soon do you think you're gonna have the bids back?
I want to open the bids, the schedule is in the letter. I want to open the bids on,
See, the end of the month.
I want to, September 25th. And then there's the 20.
October 14th or something? Is it-
No,
Well,
that's the other
no,
one.
the bids,
That's Surratt.
the bid date, I want to make, the bids we're going to have due on the 25th of September.
Yeah,
And then I have the EOH board meeting is a few days after that.
27th.
Right,
On
but
the
then
27th.
the board meets October
Yeah,
4th,
we meet early in October, so we're
Okay.
only talking a week.
so it's not so bad.
No, I agree.
Okay. So then, let me rephrase. I'd like the board to authorize the supervisor to go out to bid for this project.
That's a good idea.
Good,
Automatic.
good idea, Joe.
Good idea.
Yeah, Joe.
Would now be a good time to make a motion on this, Roland?
Yep.
Okay, there's the motion. to authorize to go to solicit bids for the Shadow Rock Stormwater Project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Now we're talking
Another prompt.
$10 million.
All right, so now let's talk about $10 million, right? So, okay, update to the board is that, if you recall, about a year ago, you authorized us, probably, I think it was April of last year, it's probably over a year ago, you authorized us to proceed with putting together the conceptual plans in order to secure the DEP concurrence of eligibility for the use of the $10 million for the putting in base sewer infrastructure in Shenorock and Lincolndale. We've been working diligently with the DEP. I wish they were working as diligently with us. We've had a fair amount of back and forth with the DEP, and it seems like every time we address an issue, a new one pops up, and we have a new list that we're working on right now. And that's part of why I'm here, is to talk about authorizations that allow us to keep this process moving forward. But one of the really important development that we had, one of the elements that the DEP continues to push on is where are you sending the wastewater, right? And do you have authorization to send it there? Now, we've resolved that with Lake Lincolndale because we have a commitment from from the Heritage Hills plant to send it there. So that's really positive for the Lincolndale side. But Shenorock, we're going to send over to the Peekskill, Westchester County-owned treatment plant in Peekskill.
We hope.
That requires an action of the Board of Legislators to allow us into the sewer district, okay? So the DEP is essentially saying, before we'll sign off on eligibility, we need some assurances from the Board of Legislatures. So we kind of get stuck in this do loop, where, puts me in a position, or the town in a position where, and I've explained this to the DEP, is in order for us to get, at least this was our thought, to get into the sewer district, we're going to have a plan, map, and report that we can put in front of the Board of Legislatures that they can vote on. That's going to require significant expenditure to get to that point. And if it's not going to be eligible in the end for reimbursement, that would be a town expense, right? Whereas if, let's say you went through the whole process and the Board of Legislators said no, right, now the town would have spent a lot of money that's not reimbursable out of the $10 million. And I think that had put us in this do loop, and we tried many different angles to try to get through this with the DEP, and frankly, haven't had the success that we all wish we had. We had a nice development 2 weeks ago, Rick. We met with legislators Kaplowitz and Koval.
Yeah.
Very productive discussion, and they've shown us a path to get a process moving forward where we can get some process completed at the Board of Legislators without having to do as a precursor to the full plan, map, and report, so that we can have something that we can send to the DEP and use that. And also, Rick and I are going to try to meet with some more senior officials at the DEP to try to push this along from that angle as well. So we're making progress, slow, but we're making progress. I think, I'm here tonight is I kind of put a proposal in front of you for some next steps, right? So a lot of this is a very similar proposal as to what you've seen before. We've a lot of background into the programs and what we're doing. But I think, there's three pieces that I've included in here. One is public outreach. We're starting to have a lot of meetings, a lot of energy is starting to be created. And, at some point in time, I believe that we should really be pushing a public outreach with mailers and information and meetings, to generate the groundswell of energy that I think is going to be important when it comes time to talk about a plan, map, and report for this area. So when you create the district, ultimately we're going to have to create a sewer district for both communities. My recommendation will be to make that sewer district the entirety of what we want to do over the long term, and not just this first phase, right? And this way we go through that process one time. So therefore, we have assurances over the first phase in terms of how where the money is coming from, but we don't know about all the money in the future. There may need to be, and likely will need to be, some bonding activities. So I think it would be wise for us to get the entire community supportive of a long-range plan right now. And I think that that's going to require a significant amount of public outreach to accomplish that, right? I put in an allocation in here of $25,000 to go ahead and do that. The board could choose to authorize all of that and spend it at the discretion, under the guidance of the supervisor, or you may choose to say, hey, let's start smaller and let's do something smaller now. It's really up to the board on how you want to approach that. But I think it's a very important element for the long-term success of this project, is to make sure that the community truly understands the benefits they're receiving through creating a sewer district that encompasses, and the town's intentions of leveraging as much publicly available funding as possible to drive the project and minimize overall expenditures to the community.
So when you say community maintenance and education in this,
No, I'm saying community outreach and education.
okay,
If I said maintenance, I'm sorry,
I may have wrote it wrong.
I was
so it
stuck in a
maintenance.
stormwater project maybe in my mind.
All right.
So, Joe, I mean, we've already done some of the groundwork on the public education through our local waterfront revitalization program group. So we have, and Joe and his staff have been meeting with Lincolndale, Shannarock, sometimes Purdy's, Deansbridge community on how to improve water quality. So for Lincolndale and Shannarock, there's this effort to put in the infrastructure of a sewer project that in the future, we can't connect everybody over there. This is the beginnings, and this is why we want to educate these communities. So, I mean, a lot of work, years have gone into this already, and I'll make a formal announcement later, but I'm going to propose that we move our October 11th meeting over to the Crystal Clubhouse in Shannarock and have the meeting right there in the community. And Joe, we'll have you kind of just focus
Okay,
on,
the timing on that could be perfect. We could be announcing the award of the contract for the stormwater project
There
at
you
that
go.
time, if all goes well.
so you could do a
A
summation of your presentation
Right.
on October 11th.
Yeah. So I think there's an important community outreach aspect to this. There's also, the second aspect is, I think what we have it in here as 1.2, the program development. This piece is I don't think is as time sensitive, but it would be important, it's an important aspect that we have to get done, is to start outlining. Remember, there's a couple parts. We are still saving money here from the $10 million to do septic maintenance. Remember, we've talked about septic maintenance district in the past, so that those that are not in the immediate boundaries of the sewer projects also have access to funding in order to improve and repair septic systems. And there's criteria that has to be developed, and so really the second task is around really pinning all that down. Right now, that, in all honesty, that one is not as time critical as I believe is the outreach, and then also the latter task of finalizing the coordination with the county, working with the legislators, providing them the information, meeting with them, meeting with the DEP, and getting those ultimate approvals through all of those, the county and the DEP, so that these projects can move forward. And then we'll be here talking about the other numbers that are in here, that once we get into preliminary design and final design, the numbers get big, and therefore I think it's very important that we have certainty that we have access to the $10 million, so that we're not spending town money on this that will not be reimbursed. And I will just reinforce that providing that what we design here is built, and providing the DEP does what they have done in other communities and deem it to be eligible, this would all be reimbursable to the town.
Is the sewer capacity come into this in any way? We're just getting too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
here,
it is. There's plenty of capacity over in Peekskill. Believe me, there's plenty of maneuvering going on to secure that capacity.
but- Okay, and then we have Heritage Hills.
And we have Heritage Hills. That is the last agenda item that I'll come back to, that I want to talk about once we got through this, is I do want to
Sorry,
come
I
back and
didn't
talk
know
about
that.
Heritage Hills for a second.
But the part you're talking about, the community outreach, I think that's so important. I think people expect that now more than ever, whether it be because the
Social
ubiquitousness
media.
of social
And-
media.
And we have great
everything.
partners, I have to say. We have great partners in the communities already. Graphic artists willing to pitch in, and we will, of course, leverage that as much as possible to make the town's allocation of funds go as far as possible.
But if you look at the success, let's say, of a school bond, it was being very proactive. If you look at some of the things that haven't been as successful, when people think government is doing something to them, not for them,
Right.
they were, when people feel, rightfully or wrongfully, well, we were the last to know, you did it, you didn't tell us. Whether that's justified or not, it's the reality of it. And so I think the more they can be out in front and bring people in,
Right.
then you're doing something for them, rather than keep them out, then they think something's being
Right.
done
And-
to
and
them.
ultimately-
So I think on any level of government, I think you have to do that today.
And ultimately, where we want to be on this is not the only one standing in the front of the room, right? We want the
Yeah.
community leaders to be in front of the
Absolutely.
room advocating for
Right.
the
Bring
project,
people
and
in.
we're really there in a support role to them. And that's really, I really commend the supervisor and the board for taking that approach. I think that is the right approach, is to, again, not have it seem like it's the town trying to do something, but have them see their neighbors saying, this is a good thing for us.
Yeah.
And just so you know, everybody I've met with, both in Lincolndale and Shenorock, which I've had most of my meetings with, are incredibly supportive. The base group that we're talking to, the leaders there, and very excited about this.
I'm sure at any of those meetings, if you ever, I'm sure the supervisor's been there, but if you ever need any town board members, I'm sure that we would, we can't have three of
September
us,
10th, I
but-
think, is the next,
but
is the
we-
next
We try not to
meeting.
goof it up, but we can.
I'm sure you won't.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, we tried
Only
doing
one
this
Only one of
early
us
on,
can go.
right, and met some resistance.
Well,
I mean,
if you-
the response that you made, Rick made, was to put together a task force, to get out there and socialize what we want to get done, and sort of get some of the folks in the community that were interested in that. Typically, we're getting the people out that were opposed to it.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So now we have a more broader understanding, which is good.
Yeah, we learned the hard way with the Park District. This is the town, this is what we want to do. We're going to come in and set up a Park District, and it's only going to cost every household, $150, whatever it was. Kind of going the other way around here. We're going in the community and saying, hey, we're going to put in the sewer infrastructure. We'll connect the first 100 homes, at no charge for the connection fee. And in 20 years from now, if your septic's failing, you'll have the ability to connect to a sewer line that's in your community. So that's where this groundswell is coming from.
Yeah.
So we want to put the sewer infrastructure in Shenorock and in Lincolndale. And most importantly, the community is saying, yeah, we like that. We understand that septic systems are not a permanent solution.
Right.
They're
Especially
gonna
on
fail.
small lots, especially in areas with small, these are small lots, right? So, and when you think about Lincolndale, they're still served by wells, right? So you get, congestion of septic systems with wells, long-term, this is a very a good solution for the community. So this evening, I wanted to talk this through with you. I really outlined 3 initial activities. The one around the community outreach, which was a $25,000 allocation for community outreach, and we've outlined some things. Of course, we would not proceed on any of that without the supervisor and I saying we're going to do X and we're going to use this much of that allocation. This would not be Joe just, running and sending you a bill for this. This would be very, very much directed and coordinated with the supervisor, and how we spend that $25,000. And the other piece that I'll ask for this evening is the $12,000 to get the coordination with the county done. The legislators meet with them, send them the information, to continue to coordinate with the DEP. Get this finally to the point where both the county and the DEP has agreed that this is eligible for funding, so that we can move forward with the big portions of this project with confidence. The second item the item around the program development, I think the board can approve it right now, but I would not be, even if you approved it, I wouldn't be seeking notice to proceed on that until we got through the county step. But I'll ultimately leave that up to the board as to whether you would rather now approve the entire amount, which would be, I added it somewhere, 25, 55, 67, or approve just the community outreach piece for 25 and the additional work with the county and the DEP for 12, or 37. I'll leave that up to the board on which way. And if you didn't want to allocate the full 25 tonight, and you said, hey, look, let's start with 10,000 in community hours, that's fine too. I think it's important for us to get going on those things.
Yeah, I would do that. Start with that 10,000, let's see how it goes.
No.
Okay, is that a motion?
Well, should we talk it over with Bob Kehoe first, or is he gonna reach?
No, I
No, I think
No,
we're
what-
gonna do it.
Oh, no, it's just a question whether you spend, I don't think we have to do that, because the money is there. Just a question, is 10,000 sufficient? Should it be all 25,000? I would just say,
Well, it's.
I can't
get it
even
started.
sit here and guarantee you that 25 is going to be enough, frankly, right? It
So,
depends
you
on
know,
how it goes. So,
let's just see.
I just think that
I would
we
say let's go half and see how it's going and see what happens
Go
then.
15. We can always
Whatever.
Come back for the other 10, and if we do 15 and you say, geez, that's going pretty quick, we're gonna need more, we can discuss it again.
Okay.
The other
I
part is you
would-
said, what, 12.5?
12.
Just 12?
For,
That is for the interaction with the county legislators and the DEP to get to the point where
We're gonna get the money.
they're saying the money's yours.
Yes.
Yeah,
Northern Westchester
Yeah,
Water.
this
That's
is-
even more
you
important.
need that is.
Yeah, we need that before
We
the
don't do that, we
15.
can't do anything.
should there be an order of events to those things? Should the?
So maybe you should have that before,
Well,
the outreach.
I'll leave that up
versus-
to the board's discretion. My suggestion would be that, I mean, there's a meeting on September 10th, right? The community is active right now, and I think we may be metering that money slow in the beginning and strong in the spring or something like
Yeah,
that.
You're gonna deal with,
Want to make a motion for 37? That's half of what,
yeah, it's, yeah, I mean, I'm fine with
Yeah, I'm
giving you all of it. You're not gonna spend any of it without
Without
You're right,
talking to the
exactly.
supervisor.
I'm
So
not,
I
you
don't
know
have a
me, I'm not
problem.
gonna run rogue on this.
No,
I'm
I know
gonna
you're
work very
not.
closely
No,
with
I,
them.
I'm not gonna lie.
let me just say
Joe
this,
Rogan,
I'm
vote
okay
for
with,
Yellow.
I just
okay
bought a
with-
Rogue, it was a good car, nice
I'm
car.
okay with approving it, but I want some sort of a feedback loop in terms of, if you're gonna do collateral material, you'll come back and show us the types of things that you have done.
well, we'll get
We
an
can
up,
go through the supervisor, and the supervisor will get it out to us, and
we'll get an update on whatever we authorize tonight, October 11th meeting.
At the October
Right?
11th meeting, correct.
so do we approve the funds separately? Do we approve $25,000 for, so I make a motion that we,
Hey, do them separate, yeah.
yeah, we approve $25,000 for the community outreach program,
And the
and
12.
$12,000
Right.
for the, and how are you referring to it, as the, no?
Administrative
Yeah,
coordination.
All right, let me do one at a
Administrative
time.
coordination with
Let's
the
do the first one first. I make a motion that we allocate $25,000 towards the community outreach program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Now I make a motion that we approve $12,000 for.
Well, so moved on that first
All in
one.
favor?
Yeah.
Yep.
And now I make a motion that we approve allocation of $12,000 for,
Administrative.
For the administrative activities with the Board of Legislators and DEP.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So moved.
All
All
right,
right.
so the last item, and I apologize
More?
for taking long, I don't, no more approvals, I just want to since Heritage Hills came up, I did want to just give an update. One of the activities that we'll have to work with Roland on as part of this project eventually is going to be to come up with to finalize the agreement for use of their capacity for Lincolndale. And I just want to remind the board that they're looking for a coordination of how are we going to use their entire 400,000 of remaining capacity. I've talked to the supervisor about a program looking at what would we hook up. Okay, if we hook up the business district, you know, the rest of Lincolndale, the business district, Purdy's, does that use up the 400,000? If so, what is that going to cost our residents? What are the funding sources? So that the board can understand the full scope of what it's going to the impact of
Do we know,
that.
I mean, and again, I'm sure we've said this number before, I don't have it with me. Do we know the approximate of Lincolndale?
Lincolndale is going to use about, when it's fully built
Fully,
out,
yep.
about 100 and, I'm speaking off the
yeah,
top of my
I-
head, but I want to say it's on the order of 150,000.
Okay, so it's a good chunk of the
It's a good
400.
chunk of it when it's all built out. And
But
then,
are they, is
and then
there-
I know the business district is like another 50,000.
50,000,
And
yep.
then maybe we can get over to Purdy's as well.
Are they looking for us, so they had that project that went defunct up in Putnam, you know, that was a little bit controversial. Are they looking for us to, a lot controversial?
Yeah, okay.
Are they looking for us to buy up that capacity now to save it for the
Well,
future?
they're
Or are
willing
they
to-
looking for a commitment that we're gonna be tying things in over the course of time, which will obviously
No, they're,
benefit
A
them?
combination of the two. So I had a
We may have to
conversation
bond
with
something at
Mr.
some
Sorensen, and he's definitely open to a long-term, to a term agreement. And I said like a 10-year agreement, and, you know, he didn't say no to that, right? So this is not a negotiation, this was a conversation trying to get the letter that I needed for the DEP, but he was asking about that other piece, and I said, hey, just to clarify, I get the sense that you're looking for a long, over the next 10 years, the town is gonna do these things over this schedule, right? Okay, we're gonna finish Lincolndale in these phases, and in year 2, we're gonna hook up this, and in year 4, we're gonna take that, and in year 6, we're gonna take that, and then we'll do the business district, and when that's gonna be year 8, and we're gonna, you know, so some commitment of the town to use that capacity and pay for it over time. He did indicate to me that he might be looking for an initial upfront payment,
that's what I gathered.
and then the rest in
Okay, that's my
increments over
question.
time.
Right.
But many, many details to be worked out
Of
there.
course, but are they looking, do you think that with the things that you've outlined there over the course of time, we would be able to utilize all that
Absolutely.
capacity?
Yes.
Would that leave any, obviously, we're projecting far out with things we don't know anything about. Would that leave us with any excess capacity for anything that might come up? Or would that pretty much, that would use up what we got?
I think it would use up the vast majority of what was there. Now, that doesn't
Which
mean
would be
that,
good for the town.
that doesn't mean that there aren't other avenues where the
And they said
capacity of
they-
that plant could be increased, right? Which could be done through additional treatment opportunity, you know, treatment to put out a better quality water, right? They're limited in terms of how many, it's a TMDL, so how many total kilograms of nutrients, let's call it, that they can discharge. So right now, based on their permit limits, it equates to 702,000 gallons a day.
I got
But if
you.
you went to a lower permit limit, you might be able to get more. That's clearly a negotiation with the DEP that I can't make any commitments on this.
But that would require better infrastructure that would reduce
It would probably
the-
require a tertiary treatment train. Yeah.
Would the DEP be, is that type of thing that they would fund in order to
No,
help their
no,
water flow?
no, they would
No.
not
They have
fund
to do
that.
it themselves.
They're funding the second rebuild of that plant right now.
Yes, right.
Which, by the way, is expected to be done at the, by the end of the first quarter, that will be fully functional over there, is my understanding.
How do we know
Joe,
that's
I-
gonna work?
Excuse me?
Are we sure this one's gonna work?
I've had you know, my staff has, we've reviewed that, and we're comfortable with what they're putting in is gonna work, yes.
Joe, I agree with you, and I think the big thing's gonna be, from the meetings that we had with him, is what's the upfront. You know, he was fine with some of it lagging on, but he's not gonna wanna have, of the 400,000, we're gonna say, well, 300,000 of it's not gonna happen for 8 years, or something to that effect. So that's gonna be the big talking point.
I think, I agree, and I think because we are gonna start to, when you start talking about this, you're gonna start talking about real money, right? Not only for the plant, but for all the infrastructure to complete out Lincolndale, to build the historic district. And that's, I think it would be unlikely that we would be able to fund all of that with other people's money. There was
agree.
gonna have to be some bonds issued, and I would think that the board,
That doesn't mean we're not trying to
we're gonna try our
Right.
darndest.
use other people's money.
Definitely.
We're pretty good at it. As
we
a
are,
town, we're
yeah.
pretty good at getting other people's money, but I just think that we shouldn't go into it thinking we're gonna be able to fully fund it with other people's money.
Yeah,
So I
I
think
don't
that
think
it
any of
was,
us are.
it would be important for the board to understand what might be if we had a fully bonded, what might the worst case scenario look like for our residents? And if we, you know, and then we can start scaling back and say, okay, well, we need to be able to get at least this much grant money. What's the path to do that? And come up with a financial, financial incentive plan, initiative plan to go side by side with the capital plan. That to me is another piece of work that at some point we should talk about getting done, is understanding how are we gonna do where's the 400,000 gallons gonna come from? What is that potential impact to residents, so that you can enter into those negotiations with Heritage with the full slate of information. So I'm not here this evening to ask you for any approvals on that, but I just wanted to get the board updated.
Yeah.
So just, but.
Plan for the future.
Just one other concept, though. Are there other alternatives for sewer access? I mean, for instance, IBM has sewer capacity, right? Does that essentially have,
Or do they?
become an alternative, maybe at least less, of course, that
No,
alternative?
that's a private,
Yeah, that's a private system that, my understanding is, probably committed and not sufficient for what might be planned there right now, so. I don't think that that's an option for us.
No. I
So,
would
so,
agree.
but I would say that one idea that, Joe and I did speak about and talk to Heritage Hills about was not only, we got a commitment for Lincolndale, knowing that we have to go to the Board of Legislators, and that takes a process to get Shenorock allowed into the Peekskill plant. We figured, why not ask Heritage if they would accept that gray water from Shenorock.
To get the legislative out of the loop.
Right, well, it would be nice to have that package where we've demonstrated we have capacity, and then go to the Board of Legislators so we can get our dollars out of there. But clearly, it's always been the plan to take Shenorock to the Peekskill plant.
And what's interesting that I do just want to share with the board is the fact that we originally, both Lincolndale and Shenorock were both originally conceptualized when the pump station at the preserves was built. It was built to accommodate both Lincolndale and Shenorock send it all the way to Peekskill. We all know the barriers that have come up over the years and the rhetoric that has come up over the years around that. What I will let you know is that when we met with the legislators, and most specifically Legislator Koval, the fact that we're now diverting the Lincolndale and handling that in Heritage Hills was a huge positive for her.
Yeah.
And my sense was that might be a strong tipping point for her to get behind this. Obviously, she reserves to see more information, but I saw a very positive development in her language when we explained that Lincolndale was going to go to Heritage.
Without speaking for her, but what would have her cause her reservation, did she say?
There's a lot of competition for the capacity in Peekskill,
Yes.
right? And environmental justice issues come up, about why is Somer sending their waste to Peekskill, even though it's a Westchester County plant, we're all Westchester residents, but that's a side point, right? It's
The effluent from the effluent.
yeah, I didn't want to say it, but you did, so so that's been really the barrier,
Oh, okay.
and but she felt positive about the diversion of the,
Yeah, I
of the
understand
vast
the point
majority
now.
of those flows,
Yeah.
because it shows that we're trying to work with the county, and I think that's a positive step.
So, ultimately, we'll have two legislators, our legislators, that will be promoting this, and hopefully, they'll be able to make a case with the other ones.
Right,
to
right,
approve
that's what it takes, and,
So that's what I've got. Sorry for eating up
Nice job.
50 minutes of your evening. I know that Rick always asked me to be crisp, so sorry I wasn't as crisp.
yeah, well,
as-
if you missed
No,
August, you had to
This
double up
was a
tonight.
necessary thing to do.
So thank
Thank-
you all this evening,
Thanks,
and
Joe.
we will see you in October.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, Joe. Thank you.
Well done.
All right, so as you see, we've got a lot going on, gentlemen. Okay, our next item of business is the taxation amendment relative to condominiums. Okay, do we need to, let's see, we did,
Bye, Joe.
You don't need to refer to the planning board, to the Westchester County Planning Board,
we do not.
just to the assessor.
Okay. So,
Is the board familiar with this topic at all?
Well, I'm
why don't you
reading.
give
In
him
a nutshell, what's the amendment?
So, state law for many years has had a procedure in it, the real property tax law,
she's the,
Where-
Mike,
where fee simple developments could convert to condos, and it doesn't require any local approvals. You would simply file a certificate of condominium with the county clerk and get your attorney general approval, and you would become a condo, which would mean you would enjoy a market tax savings. No one's considered doing it up until this year, because you're giving up property rights at the same time. You no longer have your
Right, you only
your,
own the,
your fee simple piece of property, you now just have common land. But with the new tax laws and the limited deductibility of real estate taxes, people are looking for innovative ways to reduce their tax load. And so what's been happening down county is you've had several situations where the homeowners association boards have decided to become condos, and they've gone through the procedures. There's another section of real property tax law which says that if local municipalities adopt a local law and school districts a resolution before a community files for condo status, they then cannot enjoy the converted tax benefit.
Let me ask you a question.
And they will continue to be taxed as fee simple, even though they
So you
technically
So
suggest
don't.
do we need to do this in conjunction with the school? If we do it and the school doesn't, how does that affect it?
That
Do we
would
need
make
a
for a very
resolution?
complicated situation. We've given, Rick has given the school superintendent the form of the resolution
Okay.
that they need to consider.
So as soon as we take our action, we will notify the school,
Okay.
and they will process their resolution.
It-
So
It's
he's
a
on
real
board.
learning
Yeah.
curve for schools, because typically they never get involved
Right.
in
taxes,
taxation
yeah.
issues. So, you know, at first blush in my other communities, the school district attorneys came back and said, no, we don't have to do that. But the law says what it says, and when they finally looked at it, they realized, yeah, this is an odd situation. School boards have to take an action.
And it doesn't cost them anything.
No.
Right,
Well,
I mean-
Because what would happen, and what's been happening in Larchmont and Greenberg, is these tax savings to the homeowners / condo gets reapportioned to everybody else.
Well, yeah, no, I know, it's the same amount of tax, but I'm saying it doesn't cost them from the same, if they do it, it just.
It just
Yeah.
shifts the burden to somebody else.
No. So you need to declare yourself lead agency, refer to the assessor, and schedule the public hearing for October 11th.
And
Okay.
the public hearing for October 11th is going to be general.
Does that matter?
That's up to you, I don't.
As long as you put it in the
Yeah, of
public
course, but I
notice.
assume that's-
Okay.
Well, I mean, legally, it doesn't matter as a practicality. Is this a
Unless you want to have it on the
Controversial.
4th.
Yeah, we could do it on the 4th. What, is that enough time?
The fifth. No,
Yeah, today's only the 6th, right?
Sooner
Yeah,
the better.
public hearing on the
Plenty of
4th?
time for that, yeah.
it's the fourth, right?
4th of October?
Sooner the better.
Which is a
Yeah.
work session here anyway.
Oh, is it the
That is
5th?
the 4th. Why do we keep thinking, I'm sorry?
yes?
The 4th, October 4th would be a work session here.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, so it is October 4th.
That's what it says.
So
And then the
it's
school board
it's a
would be
good
following
safety
Thursday.
valve. It's a good
Yeah.
law to put in
No, I
place
agree. I
so
think-
that you're protected.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, so make a motion that we declare ourselves as lead agency on the taxation amendment relative to condominiums, refer the proposed amendment to the town clerk and assessor, and schedule a public hearing to be held October 4th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. So Roland, I guess after October 4th, once we have our public hearing and close it and vote, at that time we notify the school district, or?
The schools can do it anytime. It's not dependent on the town doing it first.
Okay, so the fact that the board has taken this action as lead agency, if I inform them, they can start generating their, okay, I will do that.
Yep.
All right, the next item, as long as we're on tax issues,
You gotta explain
is
something
the
else.
charitable contribution and the IRS ruling that came out last week
I got that.
regarding charitable contributions.
So the way this was going to work was, and schools, the schools that were opting in were going to go first because their collection is in September, and this whole idea got hatched May, June of this year. So what was going to happen were schools that were opting in, school boards were going to adopt a resolution establishing a charitable fund and appointing a plan administrator for the charitable fund. They then would be responsible, they, the schools, for collecting those contributions. So they would collect those contributions from the taxpayers, and you would have to have paid your full school tax bill in September. You would not have the ability to divvy it up half and half
Half and
under this program. So you'd pay 100% of your tax bill, and you would receive back two pieces of paper: a receipt for what you paid and a tax certificate, which would represent 95% of what you had paid. the schools were going to keep 5% as an administrative fee. And that document, that tax certificate, would have to have been some sort of a emblazoned piece of paper
The seal.
that wasn't suspect of being a fraud. And you would then have been able to take that to the tax receiver and show it to her, and she would credit you with having paid 95% of your taxes. Your total September, 50%, and 45% of your January bill. And then in January, you would have had to have gone in and paid that other 5% of your remaining bill. So that's the way this was going to work. The problem with it, from the very start, was that the tax certificate document has a logo at the bottom that has to be signed by the plan administrator, which says, "I hereby certify that no goods or services have been exchanged in return for this donation." And of course, that's a source of confusion, because the very piece of paper represents value.
Right.
So how could you possibly sign that? Which is why I wasn't suggesting to any of my communities that the tax receiver be the agent or the plan administrator for the school district taxes. The school districts were going to have to collect their own money. So this was what communities were doing until the IRS ruling came out a couple of weeks ago, and basically said the only deductible portion would be the 5% administrative fee, which pretty much knocks the socks out of the whole program, because you were always going to pay 105%, so now that 5%, if you paid it, you then could deduct it. But it was an extra payment, so why would you do it? So the whole program has been shelved. I don't think anything is going to come of it. I know the county was eager to do it. They would have been the next ones to do it after the few school districts that were going forward with it. The county was going to do it countywide. They were not going to be able to go forward either. So you'll never have to entertain it.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, it didn't occur to me that they were asking for 105%.
Oh, yeah.
So they
Well, you
want-
actually, the state law says you
Yeah,
can
you
go
can.
up to 115.
Really?
For administrative fees.
Yeah.
But then, so 5% administrative fees felt like the state was taking a cut. Somebody was taking a cut.
It did, but if it had allowed you,
But the
you know,
ethics
a huge
behind
deduction.
the authorizing, even at the town level, of, receiving no goods or services,
Yeah,
it
it was
just,
just fraught with difficulty,
yeah.
the whole concept.
And your taxes would go up 5%. I mean,
Yeah.
you're paying 5% more
Yeah.
automatically. But
So-
the whole thing is dumb. I mean, in my opinion, it's not a political discussion of Democrat, Republican. The fact is, you're paying tax on money you pay in tax. That's why it's tax deductible. What you pay in taxes is tax deductible. But now not all of it is. So you pay tax on what you paid in tax, which makes no sense to me at all. Now, whether or not that was thought out before Congress passed that law, I'm not quite sure. But to me, it is ridiculous. This proposal here is convoluted. It
Well,
sort of makes sense that it doesn't go through in a way, but I understand people trying to find a way around a law that seems patently, to me at least, to be unfair. We try to stay out of national politics here, which is a good thing. But when you're paying tax, and the money you pay in tax to your town and your school, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what this
Well, the
situation-
chaos we went through
Yeah,
in December of
yeah,
last year.
Yeah.
And, some people that did pay probably got hurt. So, and that's why we had disclaimers on the town tax part of it. But,
Well, the long story short is we don't have to do anything, right?
no,
No.
so, right.
right.
So the
The,
tax receiver
we've been in a holding pattern, so our recommendation at this point is,
And not to do anything.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Good.
okay, thank you for that clarification,
Thank
Roland.
you.
Okay, authorize the supervisor to execute the following. Hopefully, you've all had a chance to go through A through F. I will make a motion to authorize A independently and take a vote This is the cooperative investment agreement between New York Cooperative Liquid Asset Security System, N-Class, NY-Class, and the town of Somers per email from our finance director, Bob Kehoe. So I'll make a motion to authorize that agreement.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
But I have to recuse myself.
So, right.
Be on record.
We're all in favor, and you're,
Recusing myself.
okay, let the record show that. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, then, from authorize the supervisor to execute items B through F. And if there's any discussion on any of those items?
I'm just curious, I gotta look at did the fee go up for the dogs, or did it stay the same? Stay the same? Okay.
Which one?
The dog.
The dogs.
Animal shelter?
Yeah. Well, no, we've never had a
No, we
contract.
did.
Oh,
We just didn't have one for this year.
Yeah, we've had them in the
It's a
past.
budget line.
okay,
Okay, good.
okay, so,
Second, or did we?
yeah, I'll make a motion, yeah, I made a motion. Second?
Second.
Through F.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. Which brings us to
Solar panels.
number 5, authorize the supervisor to approve going to bid for the installation of solar panels at the highway garage from qualified solar providers per email from Surratt Dim dated August 29th.
Second?
Okay, I want to do 5 through 11, so if there's any discussion on those.
5 through, I got a question on this is the authorized of 100,000 for the vegetation management.
Yeah, we should
I
discuss
mean,
that.
so once we authorize it, I mean, is there a plan? How are we gonna sort of,
It's,
how are we
I
gonna
wanted,
allocate these funds?
I wanted a dollar amount on there, up to, this would probably most likely come from fund balance. But as a result, and, maybe Tom and Rich might be a good opportunity to just give us an update on the, utility task force. But it became very clear, talking to NYSEG, talking to their vegetation management people, they're telling us that about 49% of the outages are caused by trees falling that are outside of the NYSEG right away. So the idea here with the recommendation is on the town's right of way for us to go in and do some more our own tree clearing.
But who will do the planning for that, decision-making? Is
Well,
that like the
that's-
highway department, or?
Yeah, that would be, matter of fact, this week, myself, highway superintendent and the deputy rode around to different locations where they identified trees in the right-of-way that are healthy, but are in peril of hitting a line.
And we can't get NYSEG to do it?
That it's outside their square box.
49.1% of outages are caused by trees.
Right.
Of those actually not, of the 100%, 38% of them are out of the right of way. So those are the ones where,
We're gonna do it out of the right-of-way.
well, no, not necessarily. I mean, we're gonna go to see
Yeah, but that would get us close to 90%.
if there's ones that, I mean, Rick, I'm assuming this is what we're doing. We're gonna go look to see if there's ones that might be out of the right of way, that we might have better conversations with the people inside the house, number one.
Yeah,
We're allocating some money for it, too.
Right.
yeah, well, we won't be cutting trees on private property. We'll be doing it in the town's right of way. The ones at NYSEG will not be touching.
So all I'm
Okay,
saying.
well, no, I'm missing that then. I guess I'm not understanding
Well,
something.
there's a bid
Why
package.
wouldn't NYSEG cut the ones in our right of way?
Once again, they're gonna cut a
It's not
10-foot
wa-
square.
it's not
Oh,
wide enough?
you're saying we might need to cut it more? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right,
I
that's
mean,
fine.
I've watched them on Lovell Street this week. So you can see a clear path 10 feet above the wires and below the wires and the side of the wires. Then you look up and there's
Oh, okay.
huge branches hanging over.
So
So-
to supplement what NYSEG is already doing for those trees that would possibly imperil
Right, that we would deem possibly falling on one, could possibly
Now,
fall on
Bedford, I
one.
was talking to the guys who do this in Bedford. They only, they contract out with a tree company. And by the way, Nelson, which NYSEG contracts for a lot of money, they have trouble finding
Yeah.
qualified people. They will tell you that. Talking with a company that does it for Bedford, where they go around once a week and they cut dead trees. That's what they do. So we look for dead trees that can hit power lines. We cut them, take them. So it's a little different. But their point was, they can't get can't get enough workers, not just guys, but enough workers. So it's not. It won't be as easy or as quick as we would think, because these companies are inundated, and increasing their labor supply, they're finding to be difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's something that I didn't realize before. That puts a little fly in the ointment, I guess.
No, that's true. And one of the things we should put in the spec, that any tree service have an arborist
Yeah.
to make those calls.
Yes. I think that that's important.
So, yeah, this, and, you know, the highway department, obviously,
They'll point out.
yeah, they cannot, you know, does the town take down trees? Yes, we do. But they have full-time jobs cleaning, they're still cleaning up from the storms. They have a tree list, and like a sidebar issue to this is that since our highway department, our Teamsters, is going out to bid with a tree company, taking work away from them.
Right.
So I've been in contact with the Teamsters, and we have a letter of agreement which says, yes, they don't have a problem with us contracting for this, but if and when there's overtime available, that the town will pay overtime for our guys to work out on the trees with the contractor.
So, but what I'm stuck on is that we're gonna essentially assess trees that NYSEG hasn't adequately cut. And then we're
Well-
gonna take action.
Well, they're limited. You know,
Right.
they're limited by regulation from PSC of how much they can cut. One of the things that could be considered, that was brought up when we had a meeting here, is changing to Connecticut's regulations, which is you can cut to the sky, but New York does not allow that. Now that's
Blue Sky
right.
project, yeah.
Now, so it may be over, but it's 20 feet up there. So Connecticut has a different regulation. Probably New York should consider that. I don't know enough to say whether that's better or worse, but I think it should be considered.
So they've limited themselves to.
Well, they are limited by. They don't
By the
limit themselves.
regulation.
They are
And we're
limited.
gonna-
Public
and we're
service
not.
regulates them.
And we're not.
And we're not.
Right.
No, it's our right of way, we can cut away.
If it's got to be in the town right away, right?
So how are we gonna decide which ones?
That's where you need the
Need
arborist.
more.
Right,
or
so
That's where
we're
you
gonna
need
go out to
arborists.
bid. Part of the bid spec is going to be that the tree company has a licensed arborist with them that'll work with our highway department.
So I'm thinking that you want an independent arborist. So he's not just kind of, the 100,000, we need
Well-
300,000.
something to think about, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then also do it in a way that I think concurrently, you still want to push back on this thing, try to get reimbursed. I mean, these guys are not doing the job.
That's a good point.
I mean, I understand.
Well, that's why we
I-
have the
you know,
utilities task force.
Well,
that-
and we're talking, but again, in the tree thing, like Supervisor was saying, they're limited as to what they can do. They can do, what is it, Rich, I think 10 feet up and like you were just saying, and
Yeah,
and
10
feet
feet,
below.
10-foot box around
Right.
the wires.
And,
So-
and they can't, if it's not in the right of way, they can try, but they really can't touch it at all.
So, I mean, so again, like just concurrently with this, we go to Senator Murphy and say, this is one of the things that we need to be advocating as a change in regulation,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because he's all over that too.
yeah. Well, part of this, getting this
That's
utility
really
task
the
force
governor.
together.
That's
What's
the
that?
governor controls that.
Yeah, I
one.
understand, but,
You know, he's got-
who knows
Public
where-
Service Commission
Right.
does not serve at the pleasure of the legislature. They can certainly put pressure on them,
Yeah, okay, fine.
but they are not appointed by the legislature, I don't believe. But yes, it always helps to have more voices, of course. And Legislator Kaplowitz has been very adamant about this also.
Yes,
So, I
he
mean, just think of it this way, if every town does this, you aggregate that number, and that essentially becomes a cost to the stockholder. So they're not gonna do it unless somebody puts a gun to their, sort of changes a regulation, makes it a mandate.
Well, they're charged. They get a monopoly. It's a regulated monopoly in which the conditions by which they have a guaranteed profit, in effect, by being a regulated monopoly, those conditions, those requirements are set by the Public Service Commission. So in order to stay in business, they must follow those regulations. Now, I believe all of us here would say that when they have a 5-year vegetation management policy routine, that is not set by Public Service Commission. They can increase the frequency of their vegetation management as they go down a street. I would think we would all believe that they should increase that frequency because of the changing nature of storms and weather, et cetera, like that. So the question is whether or not they actually are doing their job. Now, the new management of this company, which is what, 2 years old? They've had it for a little longer, 2 years. They pledged that, look, there might have been problems in the past. We're trying to undo them. We're going to do better. Hey, we all know talk's cheap. Let's see what you can put up in terms of action. So that's an ongoing dialogue, and hopefully they will do better. But in the meantime, there might be something we can do to help our town. But obviously, it's not limitless resources. We can't trim everybody's trees, and you go a little step at a time and see what happens.
Yeah, no, this allocation would not be for cutting on trees on private property.
No.
No, I understand,
Okay.
but what does this buy us? I mean, it's too,
You know
I
what?
understand the concept.
We may not have as
It's
many
just too
outages
squish-
as we
it's
did
just too
last year.
squishy.
Yeah,
I need somebody to advise me as to how we're gonna, prioritize and spend the money. I understand the merit, but we're not experienced enough to do this. And if we go to an arbiter, we need some arborist. There should be some, separation of who's coming up with a plan.
maybe something to
And then,
consider.
Yeah,
and
well-
then the other question is, what is $100,000 bias?
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we prioritize that? Somebody gotta tell me,
It's a good point. It's a good point. We have to design the program that makes sense.
need
It
to
might be
design
an
a program
independent
that makes
arborist.
sense.
This is the
Works for the
authorization.
town and gives
What happens
us
after this are the
recommendations.
specifications. I think that's what you're talking about is,
Good question.
what are the specs that we would expect from a tree service?
Right, so, I'd almost wanna come back with a plan in terms of, before we, authorize, I don't know what the $100,000 is gonna buy us.
Yeah, we're losing time.
And winter's approaching.
We're entering hurricane season. Look, if this prevents 1,000 people from losing power,
You don't know
On
what you're
one
gonna
night.
do with this yet, though. I understand all of that.
yeah, we've
But-
identified trees. I just said, myself and the deputy and highway
So
superintendent.
you have a list of trees that you have identified.
They have a
and you-
list of trees,
Who's
dangerous
that?
trees, yep.
So there's a program.
Well, it might be
so-
that the list is generated partly. NYSEG who says, look, we can only do so much, but I'm telling you, the rest of that tree, boy. Now, we're not going to do their work.
No.
But they might say, we can't do it, but that one is in trouble, and that's going to put the power line in trouble.
And-
that might be something to.
And you guys have a meeting at the utility task force coming up where you're gonna have their arborists there.
And he's
Is that Sam?
accessible. Sam,
Sam.
he gives his number out and all that,
Yeah.
so.
So, and you know what, we'll use them as that outside,
It
if
maybe
things come into question.
maybe that's the thing that we would do. But yeah, we're not taking their work or paying because they can't do
Oh,
the proper
no,
job.
no.
No way.
So,
Nor
This-
can we
this
go
is-
and.
This is the town of Somers making a commitment
Just, it's $100,000
to harden our infrastructure.
plan.
Yeah.
There's very little else we can do. We're not gonna put up telephone poles. We're not in the transformer business or reclosers. But
Right.
certainly, our community is suffering through these outages.
so Rick, why don't we do this?
It is.
I make a motion that we authorize up to $100,000 for vegetation management contract with Tree Service Company and to go up a bid for the services using version 2 of Schedule A insurance.
What's that?
We have
That's
to indicate.
we have to indicate what insurance we're
schedule
gonna
we're
use.
using.
Okay.
Which is the higher one.
That's
Which
the
is the
one.
higher one based on the
That's the 5
It's the
million. I
5
think.
million.
$5 million coverage.
Right.
So just add that to it.
Okay, yep. Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna just,
Aye.
Yeah,
Okay, say
yeah,
negative.
look,
I-
look,
no.
well,
abstain. You can
If we haven't
abstain.
convinced you, we haven't convinced you.
no, I think it has merit, guys.
We
but
do
I
need
just- this is
specifics, you're right.
$100,000 It's
Yes.
$100,000 with no specifics.
You're right, and we'll have to,
Well, you're gonna send it out to bid,
Get
you
that
don't
out.
have to approve the bid if it comes in
Crazy.
Right.
something you don't want.
Well, anyway, it's four.
but we have to identify the
well,
specs for
Is that
that
an
bid.
A or a?
Yes.
That's what we
What's
have to
that?
do.
Yeah,
We have
that's-
to identify the specs for the bid.
Right,
In
we-
order to get this bid, these are the things that we want on that
And
bid.
we have
So-
draft specs that we're gonna look at.
So you're gonna get, okay,
Already.
so you're gonna get, you're gonna come back with specs.
We already have specs, draft specs,
They're gonna come
that we
back-
have to customize
They're gonna come
to.
back with bid responses. And we're
Right.
gonna look at the bid responses and we're gonna say, yeah, we like it, no, we don't like it,
Mm-hmm.
we accept it or we don't accept it.
It'll be interesting how many we get, because tree companies
Yeah, that's
may or may
right.
not
We
go
might
after
not get
this.
anything back.
They may say, look, on my own, I can make more money. So that's why I was talking to these guys from Bedford.
So, and we're gonna put the responsibility on the task force to essentially review the specs? Is that what we're gonna do?
It's on the highway department.
Highway department?
Yeah, ultimately, the identification of, the town's right of way is the purview of the highway department. And although they will not be out there supervising the cutting, they will certainly be pointing, putting X's on trees and that type of work. But yeah, no, the task force is just that, you know.
All right.
You know, it's a think tank, they're coming up with some good recommendations, so.
Well, why don't you frame the bid form so that the bid is a price per day for a bucket truck and a crew?
No, but yeah,
And then the highway department directs them day by day until the fund is exhausted.
That makes
Right.
sense.
so
Yeah, but
we've
we're
done some
establishing the
research,
fund now.
Nelson
Yeah, you're
charges.
establishing
We're
the
establishing the
pot.
fund now, and
But-
then that's
But
something
you're not
that,
expecting a bid to come in for $97,000. The bid should come in
Oh,
for
no, but it'll come in with a day rate.
a day rate.
yeah, that's
Pull
just
your-
like all of our other
Yeah.
things that come
And
in. They
then-
come in,
and then
this
the
guy's
highway
cost
department
$100
will
and.
Send the truck around, probably
Until
with
the
a
month.
highway crew as well.
Well, not necessarily. They're gonna be out doing other stuff. That's
Who's gonna
why
do,
we have
like,
to
the
do this.
traffic control?
That's part of their crew.
It'll be the superintendent or it'll be the deputy that'll kind of get the crew going. You're working on this town road today. Here are all the X's that are on the trees.
So the tree company has to provide the crew to supervise traffic?
The ones I've seen do on the road.
I,
Wow.
probably not. We'll have to get the, highway either to set that up. The tree company, I know that Nelson does it. It's not,
The flaggers?
the town does not do that. Yeah, they provide the flags.
Does that change if we are paying them? Because yes, that's what they do
Yeah,
all the
that could be,
time.
that could be in the spec.
It's gonna exhaust its money that much quicker.
What's that?
I just wanna know.
If
what
they-
you're doing.
Yeah, we just have to know what you're
Bring in
looking
a tree crew plus flaggers.
So,
Right.
yeah, that we put that in the specification. Flaggers and
Unless you
traffic.
can
But
do it
he's saying that the more labor, the more the money will go fast. Is there a way that we could save that money by providing what you're talking
Flaggers.
about, flaggers or whatever they call
You
them?
know, there's a vote out there on the table right now. Can we finalize the vote? Then we can
I
talk
got it,
about
I got it, Tom. But, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, I support the concept, but I just thought, I'm just looking for a little bit more comfort with the
Okay.
result.
And we
And so-
don't have that for you right now. We will in the future.
Well, would you want to see a draft of the specs where they go?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
You wanna see that?
Can we do that?
Well, we can, but we have a 4-1, and I will pass the resolution with that caveat that, yeah,
So
we
if
can
you-
send you over the draft bid specs. I did send it out to you guys. It's the Pleasantville,
Pleasantville.
It's the Pleasantville one.
Pleasant.
yeah,
Now,
that we could work with.
maybe we should look at Bedford's too.
All right, and Bedford, that we can get a hold of those. All right, so we have a 4-1.
All right, I'll support it.
Yeah, I just need you to vote. I don't care how you vote.
Yeah, just-
You can abstain, abstain.
Yeah, abstain, right. Abstain until you get your,
If you're not comfortable,
But you're still
abstain,
not saying
really.
anything.
You're not comfortable, abstain.
I'll abstain.
Yeah, okay,
Thank
that's
you.
fine.
so moved.
Thank
Okay, any discussion on
5 to 11.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11?
Yeah, quick question on 9.
Sure.
How much money is being moved over to the for
Oh,
restoration?
Yeah, good question, and that would be $2,000,
Okay.
which is, as you know, there was
up
an
and
Eagle
running.
project.
Yep.
They reinvigorated the,
looks
but,
Yeah.
we need, these are wooden spoke wheels.
Yep.
It needs a rear end,
Yeah, yeah.
so.
It needs some maintenance, but the
Yep.
fact that it's
His Eagle
running is
Scout project
phenomenal.
was to basically get it moving, get it mobile.
Which it did, he did a great job.
All right, so we voted on 10, you wanted to do all of them though now.
Right.
So we gotta do all
In,
of them.
in 11, there's a memo from the town clerk advocating for one bid over the other. Is this the same?
It was to accept the low bid.
Yes.
It's not- Yeah,
Well, that's what I'm saying, and that's what we're voting on here.
yes.
In 11, is the one that you identified, you recommended.
Right,
Or
and
that
we-
was the low bid.
Right, and what's not on the
It doesn't-
agenda here, it's Alameda Oil.
Right, that's what I'm saying, it's not on
Company
the
Inc.
agenda here, right?
Right.
Okay, as long as I know which one we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll make a
Should
motion.
we put that in, Alameda?
It'll
Yeah,
be-
I did. It'll be in the final
it'll be
version.
on my resolution, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve, and authorize number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11. All in
Second.
favor? Oh, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Thank you. Okay, moving on to Highway. Authorize the solicitation of a rebid for the 2018 highway material bid for the portion of the traffic and street signs due to an increase in cost of aluminum, per memo from Tom Treverini, Superintendent of Highway, dated August 20th.
I was just curious about this. Maybe this is a question for Roland or somebody else, but can folks just unilaterally just decide, okay, we're not gonna live up to the terms of our contract? Oh, the price of aluminum went up. Oh, well, tough luck.
I don't know the circumstances of this, but the short answer is no, they can't. They're bound by a contract, they have to.
Uh-huh. So this creates work for all of us
Well-
because of.
Well, I think it says
Totally sorry. You're throwing them
Rebid.
under the bus.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't think, I
So
think
we
it says
sue
that
them,
we
they-
didn't
they-
get them.
They walk away?
Does it mean we got the bids?
We got the
Or-
bid, we
or
have a
to
contract, and they
rebid 'cause
just-
nobody
Yeah,
bid it?
exactly,
No,
that's the
no.
question. Did we get any bids?
I read it
thought
as
we
we didn't
accepted
get any
bids. Let's
bids.
put it
I
that
don't
way.
know.
I
that
read
could-
it as
that
we
could be
have a
too.
contract.
Right, I don't think we accepted anything and they're saying the cost, we did.
This is for the, I knew it was gonna happen.
Signs.
This was from the 2018 material bids. Now, we haven't done the 2019 material bids yet. That's gonna be next month or so.
Right.
So this is the bids that are currently in place for 2018. And this gentleman called the highway department and said, the price of aluminum has gone up extraordinary. We need to we are no longer able to honor our bid price. Tommy sent this
Oh.
memo stating he wants to now rebid that portion
So
of the
this-
2018 material bids.
So the chosen vendor reneged on his bid,
Right.
and Tommy's saying we should go out and rebid. I mean, we could take legal action, I guess, against,
Well, he hasn't received
Well,
any money.
I don't know if this was part of a state bid, or Tommy very often uses state bids, county bids, other states, he goes all over the place.
yeah,
So
But this is
Onondaga.
Yeah,
But this is their material bids.
yeah, I know.
No, like,
Oh, it's not off-
Peckham, you know,
So-
like Glencoe, Co.
But still, you end up with those companies, but it could still be part of a state bid.
This
This
is all
wasn't?
a formal bid process.
I mean, if the
Well,
highway
at the very
superintendent
least,
recommends
then-
this
at
course of
the very
action,
least, then this bidder
that's
should be
one thing.
declared an unsuitable bidder in the next go-around. and he shouldn't be considered.
That's a sign.
That's
I'd agree with that.
The short answer to that is, you didn't honor the bid we gave you, we're not gonna make the same mistake
Makes
twice.
sense to
Business
me.
with you going forward.
Okay, so let's authorize the solicitation of a rebid and
Okay.
exclude the current bid
Bidder.
provider who,
The word they use in general municipal is, he's proven his irresponsibility.
How much money are we talking about on this, Patty, do you know?
Pricing
Or
has
what
been
the bid
increased by
is?
30%.
But do we know what the total bid is on that, does he say?
No, he doesn't.
traffic and street signs.
I don't
I mean,
know.
it would have to be over $20,000
Yeah,
to have
that's
to
right.
be bid.
So basically, we would rebid
So
it and not
that's a
include
lot
the
of street
Glencoe.
signs.
All part of one big package.
That-
Yeah, but he's only bidding this part.
Yeah, I know. So
I don't know why he
they
even has
might
to.
not even be that much.
Yeah.
But the superintendent of highways knows what he's doing, so if that's his recommendation, it's probably the best.
Well, but yeah, but I don't want to include Glencoe in it.
Agreed.
I mean, I just don't, getting a letter, we're no longer able to honor our traffic and street sign prices, well, then your contracts aren't worth anything.
Proving
Right.
your irresponsibility. Keep him
Yeah.
out of the process, agreed.
If they are not part of that for this part of the highway material bid, does that mean they should not be able to bid on other parts of?
Yes,
So anything you're bidding for the town, don't.
I would take them off.
Yep.
I mean, so if something else that we're buying from them goes up in price, they're gonna come back and say we can't honor it anymore?
All right, so Patty, you make a,
Good point.
he's off the bidder list.
Oh, that's, again, I
That's
don't,
not you?
I don't do highway bids.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so I've made the motion to exclude the bidder. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. All right, we're to personnel and current vacancies on our Affordable Housing Board, Partners in Prevention. Town's run on volunteers, come on out and help us run the town. Volunteer for a board. Upcoming vacancies on our Assessment Board of Review. And I'd like to acknowledge the resignation of Paul Califano as our part-time building inspector, effective August 3rd. Acknowledge the retirement of Ms. Valerie Herman as librarian in the Town of Somers Library, effective August 10th. And authorize the hiring of Barbara Brandt as temporary assessment clerk at an hourly salary of $24.32 per memo dated August 31st from Teresa Stegner, assessor, effective September 4th and ending on December 31st.
Is that a full-time?
No, temporary, yes. Yeah, there would be full-time. Okay, so I'll make a motion to authorize the hiring of Barbara Brandt.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. And our consensus agenda. Two items. Authorize the return of the following bonds, per memo from Steve Wolfel. Erosion control bond for Michelle Wingy. And accept the following erosion control bonds returns, items A and B. And since this is our regular meeting, motion to adopt the consensus agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, we're getting there, gentlemen. Our calendar. Okay, so on September 20th, we're having a special town board meeting that will be held here. Agendas will be published ahead of time. And I want to announce that we are moving our October 11th meeting from the townhouse over to the Shenorock Crystal Room, which is the old Shenorock Community Center. Joe Barbagallo will be updating us once again and the community. And it's, nice to get out there in the community. to have a meeting.
Budget season.
Okay, town board announcements. There are 8 of them.
Cool.
All right. Slide a couple down this way.
Have it down there. There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Give it a rolling for do something.
Tony,
Give it a legal reading.
Free back to school immunizations. You want it?
okay, so I've announced the special town board meeting. The location of the October 11th. And I'll start off with the, thanks for another successful blood drive we held here on September 4th. We collected 42 units, and our next blood drive will be in January of this year. There's an emergency appeal currently going on. Somers, you've certainly contributed this time around, but they are still in a critical need for blood. So you're asked to call the New York Blood Center at 1-800-933-2566. Okay, let's start with our announcements.
Okay, so there are free back-to-school immunizations for eligible students. It's done by appointment, so if you call this number, 914-995-5800, to find out if you qualify and to make an appointment. The special clinic dates are Saturday, September 8th, between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. in White Plains. Tuesday, September 11th, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. in White Plains. And Saturday, September 15th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Yonkers. I don't know specifically where here, but we'll probably post this somewhere.
Yeah, we'll put that up on our website.
All right, so,
Those are given by the County of Westchester?
Yeah, these are Westchester County Department of Health, and these are required immunizations,
Right.
so your children are going to need them, and this is an opportunity to get,
So-
immunizations at no charge.
awesome.
I'll take that back and post
There you
it.
go.
Next.
I'll go. The Somers Women's Club is having a tag sale. Its annual tag sale on Sunday, September 23rd at Reese Park, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Donations wanted and vendors wanted. Please call 914-276-8401 for additional information. Also, the Department of Parks and Recs is announcing their Bailey Park Concert Series. Sunday, September 16th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. is the Cousins Band. And Sunday, September 23rd from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. is the Out After Curfew Band. So please come out and support the local talent. And I'd also like to congratulate everybody starting school yesterday as our schools, all 4 of our schools opened up, particularly the Somers High School class of 2019. Best of luck to all of them. Go Tuskers.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add that we're getting good use out of our new gazebo, our refurbished gazebo over there, by having music return. So that's, those are 2 very good events.
Long time in the waiting.
On Saturday, September 22nd, the day before the women's tag sale, is the Celebrate Somers at the Somers Town Center, which is what is now about 4th year or so. And every year seems to, they're more fun for kids and everybody else, and by that time it won't be 103 degrees, so you can go outside in the day.
Can you guarantee that?
So that goes from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Somers Town Center. Celebrate Somers, a lot of businesses there, and just fun stuff and walking around. So it's good. But before that, next Thursday, today is September 6th. Next Thursday, September 13th, is a primary in New York State for some offices. Primaries rarely get more than 10% of eligible voters. So obviously, it's in everyone's interest. The more people vote, always a better form of democracy. So if you're involved in that, please come out and vote. And today I had the pleasure and the honor to represent the town, in effect, at the opening of the Edward Jones business. So we always like new business. Judy McEnroe, a Somers resident, is heading that up. So it's just across the street, and that was a very good time. And I thank the town for sending me there.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we'll call on you again.
Only if they're serving food like she was
Oh,
having.
okay. All right.
She was serving good food today.
So you have some specifications
I
here.
did.
Okay. I will add that Celebrate Somers, the town will have a booth there. So as town board members, please join us,
And the town clerk.
and the town clerk will be there.
Is it in a dunkin'?
She'll be appearing. What time will you be
Oh, wait.
appearing?
I'll
All
be
day?
there- I'll be there all day.
Depends what
Okay.
time Greeley is a football game.
Rick, I wasn't giving any announcements, but I have two. Are you done with yours?
Well,
You done with your announcements?
no, yeah.
Okay, so one is, I didn't hear anybody announce it, maybe I just wasn't listening, this weekend at Stewart's Fruit Farm.
Oh, right.
See, look at that, it's a good thing I showed up.
It is. It
Um,
is.
They're having,
Found a reason.
Saturday is Stewart's Farm Celebration, and,
Yeah, it's the
it's like 4 to
Westchester
7.
Land Trust 30th anniversary
And it's
celebration as
4
well.
to 7, and there'll be games for the kids. I know my son is volunteering as a Leo. I think there was like cornhole and face painting and all sorts of stuff that you can get like that. So that's, I think Councilman Sirico's correct. I think it's 4 to 7,
4 to 7.
and it's supposed to be a much nicer day over the weekend.
Hopefully.
It's supposed to be in the 70s, so that should be great. And secondly, just want to wish a happy Rosh Hashanah to everybody who celebrates out there. It's, I believe it's Monday.
Monday and
I think it's
Tuesday.
today, Monday and Tuesday. So, and I know the kids are off from school, but just wanted to wish everybody a happy one.
Okay,
Good.
same
New Year,
here.
right?
Happy New Year.
Yes,
Look at that, who would have thought I would have been the one about the Stewards
Okay.
celebration?
There was an
Well-
irony. And if there's any problem parking, we just go to your house.
Yeah,
You
come
know,
right up my
Riverflow
street.
Park, we go to Garrity Mansion and park your car.
Oh, yeah, Gary Mansion, it's the littlest one on the street.
Fat Picarlo.
There you go. And I do want to thank councilmen that are heading up our utility task force. I really think this is a needed endeavor that the town has undertaken. You've had two very good meetings
Yep.
with NICEAG representatives. We continue to hold their feet to the fire. As we sit here tonight, there are some communities in northern Westchester, Lewisboro, Pound Ridge, that have thousands of people without power. Fortunately, we were spared,
Yes, we were.
maybe because of the tree trimming that's happening in our town.
Tonight,
Yeah, they're out tonight.
Yeah, there were a couple of beds.
I have a meeting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. with an engineer that was recently hired from Connecticut, from NICEAG. This gentleman is in charge of installation of all the upgrades that we're supposed to be getting in the town of Somers. So it wasn't good enough for them to, oh, we're going to give you X, Y, and Z. Tomorrow I should learn when and where they're going to be.
I'll be joining you.
Okay.
Well, that's good.
Very
And
good.
thank you to doing that. And also to our neighbor, Warren Lucas, who has certainly, you and he have worked well together, and he's been on top of this and given us some advice. So we appreciate Mr. Lucas's
Yeah.
help with this.
Well, that reminds me, we had a conference call with the Public Service Commission July 23rd. So I was away on, so I called in the conference call. So the Public Service began the conversation. You know, we want to get an update from your supervisors on how you've made out in the nor'easters, and probably 45 minutes later, when Warren would finish a sentence, I'd follow up. And the Public Service Commission people were just blown away.
Sorry, we
They,
asked.
they were babbling at the end of the conversation. But, so the message out to the Somers community is we're working hard to harden the electrical infrastructure here. We're working with the Public Service Commission to make them regulate. That's their job. We have a lot of outstanding issues with NICEAG. But hopefully you will notice that in town we're having a lot of tree work done. What you're going to start seeing are trucks. That's the utility guys going to be replacing transformers, breakers and some of these reclosers that we've been promised.
And we've put the minutes from our meetings, they're up on the town
Yeah.
website. I've put them out on social media as well. So if you're interested in seeing what's being discussed, please look there.
I mean, I
But
just
the
want to
la-
congratulate all you guys for doing all this work, because maintaining NYSEG service levels is not really under our governance, but we're
Right.
advocating for the town, using the bully pulpit, so to speak, to get things done. And, you know, just trying to hold them accountable on a task-by-task basis to just improve this. Network needs to be modernized, and they're just not up to doing it.
And we have a good team of people with varied backgrounds. And I will say that Legislator Kaplowitz has come to our meetings. He's been very vocal at all of the meetings. From our standpoint, a good way. From NYSEG's standpoint, probably not a good way. And the supervisor and I have met with him and, was it Koval?
Yeah.
Kid Nicole.
Discussing them approaching it from a higher level. So we're trying to hit them from all sides.
Here, the thing, when we had that last meeting, when we were there, and we had about 20 people here, and there were, I think, 4 or 5 representatives from NYSEG. The one part that really got me upset, though, is when, okay, they were talking about all the things that they were doing, and here's all the protocols, and here's all the standards and procedures, and at no time was there an acknowledgement that anything was wrong. And that's, remember,
Right,
that's what really
exactly.
got me upset. If there's nothing wrong and there's nothing more that you people can do, why are we sitting in this room? It's a waste of time. You know, if you can't say, I mean, the first way you solve a problem is acknowledging it's a problem, then what can you do about it? And that, for some of them, I thought was lacking. Now, after the meeting, some of the others from NYSEG who were there saying, well, you know, we understand the point and we're going to do better, you know. Some of them get a little defensive. But you have to acknowledge it shouldn't work like this. And everyone who's been in town for a while. I was just talking to a woman today when I was over at this ribbon cutting who said, you know, I've been here for a long time. And none of this was happening until like 2011.
Right.
And we're just conjecturing about, well, are the trees bigger, are the storms worse? Probably both those things are true. But they have a job to provide consistent and reliable electrical service, and no one would say that it has to be perfect, or sometimes there's storms there's nothing you can do, and we appreciate the efforts they make during those storms. But they just can't come back again and saying, you know, we're doing everything possible, so you people just stop complaining,
Okay,
'cause that's ridiculous.
I will say this, I got a call, I think it was last week, that Carl Taylor, who's the president and CEO of NYSEG, was meeting with Northern Westchester supervisors. So we made an appointment, he came in, and what you heard at the task force meeting was exact opposite of what he was telling me.
Yeah, I read those
He
notes.
came in here and said, look, we own the problems, and we must do better.
Well, our
So-
group must not have been part of the we,
Yeah, right.
because they didn't own anything and they didn't.
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
And, you know, basically, you know, he was making no excuses. And, you know, we talked about they're owned by a Spanish concern, and I said, you know, how,
What does that have? That
we're
shouldn't have anything
a
to do with it.
question
Right.
as to, you know, are you not getting the resources? And he pointed out that the firm Iberdrola from Spain they're energy generators throughout the world. So it changed my attitude a little bit about having a foreign company control our infrastructure. I still don't think it's a good idea, but at least I don't think this is, you know, an issue that we have to worry about. But he was very forthright. There's a meeting coming up the end of September with all the supervisors, and once again, we'll post those meeting minutes and what have you, and hopefully move on and keep our lights on.
I appreciate his sentiment. He's 100% right, but talk's cheap, action speaks. So let's see
That's
what
right.
happens.
Well, tomorrow is where the rubber meets the road. I want to know where those transformers, generators, and breakers are going in.
Good. You'll
it.
let us
They
know?
still owe us information on that article, remember, Rich, that they said how much they were going to be spending?
Yes.
And they still owe us information regarding, you know, specifically they're looking to do with that in Somers,
Right.
which I don't believe we've gotten that yet.
Okay. All right, any closing comments, concerns?
No.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Yep.
Again, we'll see you on September
All
20th.
all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Good night, Somers.